Christina Nielsen was behind. Overall leader, the 10, Ryan Briscoe behind the wheel on pit road, Dylan.
And it was routine service, just 4 tires, 4 Michelins and fuel for Briscoe. Fuel's down and he is away and going to try to retain the lead here in this 10 car.
All right, Ryan, no silly mistakes. Come out, warm your tires up, make sure you don't slide on the pit exit. Don't get a speeding penalty getting off that speed limiter at the end like his teammate did way earlier in the race. You're in the home stretch now. You've got the fastest car. You got to make no mistakes from here out.
But the driver is just like the car now, right? It's tired. They're tired. They've been through 20-plus hours of competition, plus the hours that they were awake and worrying about it before that. So they've got to be at the top of their mental game and tired when they are mentally and physically exhausted.
Yeah, Ryan had a little escape down the runoff on one of his out laps in the middle of the night. We just saw the Acura flash by. We'll see Colin Braun's car. A little bit of the wrap material missing off the front. Some of that has come off. And there's the Mazda who was chasing down the leader. But he's right now about 6 or 7 seconds behind.
Be interesting to see as the sun moves higher in the sky, the track temperature comes up. The complexion, the handling characteristics of these cars are going to change. We've seen it throughout the night. Remember, in GTLM, the Ferrari really seemed to come alive. And in GTLM, remember, there are different compound tires that those teams could use. You've got to be in the right temperature zone to get the best performance out of it. Same tire all around in DPI and the other classes, but we know that the balance of these cars changes with the weather. We're about to go through another massive weather change as far as temperature goes.
Got to give a shout out to this green Porsche right here, Black Swan. Those guys wrote the car off in the first 20 minutes of practice on the opening day. They worked 24 hours straight to rebuild that car. They started dead last in the field, and right now they are running P5. So huge props to Tim Pappas and his crew for the job that they've done. A phenomenal job, and they're sniffing at a podium with it. If we get another yellow, these guys are right in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what a story there, too. I mean, the team, as you mentioned, they spent hours upon hours, almost a day, building the car back up so that they could even get out on the racetrack. There was a question of certain drivers. There was 4 drivers on this team. 2 of them, it was questionable if they could run at night because they weren't able to practice at night because of the issues they had with the car and trying to build it. They got waivers. They were able to run. But a great story for that team.
And here's another story right here. Ryan Hardwick's crew with this team, Pat Long behind the wheel. Ryan Hardwick crashed last year at Mosport. He was driving a Lamborghini last year, hurt himself, had to have surgery on his knee, had been out pretty much the whole year, and right now they have been right there at the front, currently running P4, 6 seconds behind the lead. They were leading for a little bit with Patrick Long. They are completely in the mix for a win here.
Yeah, and the Wright Motorsports team is the one who gave them, or gave the Black Swan Racing team the parts and everything to rebuild that car.
So was there a caveat in there that said, all right, we'll go ahead and sell you the tub, but you're not going to beat us on the racetrack because they're running 4th and 5th right now. But what a great job, and it shows the camaraderie in this paddock. Also, so it shows that competitive spirit for Tim Pappas. He made an investment in this race, both coming into it and then again when the car was written off, and he said, no, I believe in my team. I believe in young Trenton Estep, who made the mistake. I'm going to put him back in the car. We're going to get another one, and we're going to do this. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. 2 good drivers to finish this race for the 54. You got Sven Mueller in the car right now, and I got to believe they're going to put their bullet in the gun. And that's Jerome Bleekemolen in at the end.
We've been talking so much about the drivers and the machines trying to make it the entire 24 hours. What a great story as the stories continue through this race. The Gear team, girls empowerment around racing, the all-female team. Obviously, this is not the way they wanted it to end. Christina Nielsen was behind the wheel. She's able to jump out as the flames were rolling from the back of that Lamborghini, Dylan.
Well, and as you can see, Rick, the garage is closed. The car is behind that door. And to put it quite frankly, it is pretty much burnt up. The whole right side of the car is covered white in the engine cowling from where the fire extinguishers were deployed to try and put that fire out. So scary stuff for sure. And talking with the team, they're not really sure what the cause was, because as they said, when everything's that burnt up, it's hard to find the cause of the fire. So they're still kind of investigating that, trying to figure out what exactly caused that fire. But scary stuff for sure, and glad Christina was able to get out okay.
Yeah, and that's a question mark. We had 2 Lamborghinis fall out in the last couple of hours, and with Sellers now and Mappelli, both of the other 2 sister cars, Lamborghinis, running 1-2, is that a question mark as we get into the final hours of this race? Do they have the reliability to get to the checkered flag in 24 hours?
That fire looked like it was fed to some extent by some type of combustible fluid. I'm going to suggest oil. If it was fuel, would have kept flowing, the fire would have been a little bit bigger, but perhaps an oil line or something like that, as you point out, Paul.
But again, thankfully, Christina Nielsen out safe, but disappointed, of course, that the team not still in contention here at Daytona. We hope you're strapped in as you're riding along with race leader Ryan Briscoe in the number 10 Cadillac. That Konica Minolta Cadillac has been impressive. Defending champions from a year ago in this race, and Wayne Taylor Racing trying to get another win. And now it's Ryan Briscoe's turn behind the wheel, and he's been putting together an impressive performance. Has a 13-second lead over Ali Jarvis, who's running second in DPI. In the LMP2 class, the 81 and 52 have been battling it out right now. Ben Keating is behind the wheel of the 52, running second. And For more on the story of Ben Keating, who's doing double duty now, let's go to Kevin.
And what a unique story. He's done this before. He's won a Rolex before in GTD. He's still got a chance to win one in an LMP2, in a prototype. This is not the last stint for Ben Keating. He early in the overnight hours, fulfilled his drive time requirements of 4.5 hours in the GTD car. When he got in this one about 10 minutes or so ago, he still needed 49 minutes, so he's probably going to have to do at least a partial stint, meaning they could short fuel it on a stint to finish it up. Now, for this car, it's been a great recovery. The 81 and 52 were battling early in the overnight hours, but contact forced all kinds of issues for the 52. They changed the front wing assembly, the rear wing assembly, have made up a couple of laps. They're back just on the beyond a lap down, so they can get it back in, and we'll see their A drivers in a little bit. Keating is certainly no slouch himself. They might have something for the 81 Dragon Speed.
I tell you what, I got to give a shout out to Ryan Briscoe, because when he started this triple stint, he got a penalty for going through the red light at the end of the pit lane. Got a drive-through penalty with a 60-second hold, which put him a lap down to the competitors, and he has driven all the way back through. They did get a yellow that got them back on the lead lap, but he came from 5th place all the way back through to the lead, and now is leading by 15 seconds. So redemption for him, because you don't want to be the weak link in the car.
You talked about Ryan Briscoe. He's running in the DPI class, 4 classes on the track at the same time. And right now, we are at record pace. And when I say record pace, the record for this race in 24 hours is 808 laps. That was set back in 2018 when there were only 4 cautions. Actually, we've had more cautions in this race, but the pace of this race and the speed of this race has been so intense and so high that they're still on pace to break that record now if we don't see an extensive caution. So incredible what these cars and drivers have been able to do over the 20 hours and 50 minutes they've been on the track.
Yeah, there's really been no big crashes. I mean, obviously Castro Neves was into the tires, but they got him out pretty quickly. We had a crash on the front straightaway with 2 GTD cars, but that was a quick cleanup. No major debris anywhere. We've had very little tire failures and cut down of tires, so the pace has been really quick. These guys have been running qualifying pace. Last lap around for Briscoe was a 1:35. These guys qualified in the 33s.
Yeah, I mean, the pace is torrid, to say the least. Not the biggest field we've ever seen in the Rolex 24, but the quality of the drivers, we talked about this at the very beginning of the race, is incredibly high. And I think that combination of fewer cars, better drivers, has led to fewer cautions. It's certainly the mechanical ones you can't do anything about. We haven't seen a massive amount of driver errors as far as impacts, as you've said.
Dylan.
And guys, just a quick update on the 5 car right now. Sebastian Bourdais is behind the wheel, just replaced Joao Barbosa a little bit ago. Their plan for him is to run until about the 90 or so to go minute mark. So still about an hour and a half or so maybe for Seb to remain in the race car, and then Loic Duval will finish. So they run 3rd right now, but still very much in the hunt, but a couple of cars to pass. But Seb going to run here for a little while longer, and then Duval's going to finish.
And that's exactly what you and I were talking about, Rick, before we came on air. I was looking through the 5 lineup, and I said, if it's me, back at that point in time, I'm going to get Loic Duval out, I'm going to get him rested, I'm going to get Barbosa in, and then Seb, and I'm going to put my fast guy in for the final 2 stints.
Yeah, it sounds like Joao Barbosa, he's done. He can sit back, relax, and enjoy, watch his teammates.
Enjoy?
Well,
he's going to be pulling his hair out.
Appreciate definitely what they've been able to do.
New team for Joao. Car looks the same as last year's Action Express, but he was let go by the team for younger drivers, and he moved that sponsorship over to JDC. New opportunity for Sebastian Bourdais. Again, he was let go into the off-season by Dale Coyne. Kind of scrambled real quick, got together with Joao, and they have formed a team here that is going to be a championship contender.
And they're angry.
They got a point to prove.
Absolutely.
Got a point to prove.
Wait a minute. I think Groundhog Day, you said don't drive angry. Don't drive angry.
Well, don't drive angry.
But we have seen really some incredible pace, some great driving. It has been, from start to finish, some of the best things we have been able to check out on the track. How about the traveling that the guy that's hanging out with you has done, Rutledge?
Yeah, Rick, imagine being a superstar in anything with two wheels like this guy Chad Reed is. You raced last night in Glendale, then hop on a red eye just to be here. Now, first off, I got to ask, how you feeling? I know it was a little crash last night. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm a little beat up. I actually thought I was just about healed up and ready after multiple broken ribs in the off season, and then I think I might have re-broke them, but they tell me that's part of it.
It is, right? Now, I know you've done a lot of Super Trofeo racing with Lamborghini. You obviously love racing anything, but is it hard for you to be here and not be in a car right now?
I mean, the racer in you, you always want to get out there and be amongst it, but these boys are deep into a 24-hour race, so at this point, trying to take it on, and one day the goal is to be here and doing laps.
With that, how important to you is that to check off your list to race in the 24-hour Rolex?
I mean, checking it off the list would mean that you're successful at, the transition. So, first things first, you gotta prove yourself and get in the car and do the right things. So, but it is the long-term goal for sure.
And the booth has got a question. Guys, what are you wondering?
Hey, Chad, Paul Tracy, good to see you out here. Long-time buddy. How does it feel seeing your sponsor from Mountain Motorsports, Ryan Hardwick, out there looking at a podium in this brand-new Porsche?
Yeah, they want to know how does it feel seeing your sponsor, Mountain Motorsports, and your buddy out there looking at a podium finish. How big of a deal is that?
I feel pretty good about it because when I got here, the second that I sat on the pit box, they went to P1. So, I was up there with Ryan, and those guys are all excited. So, hopefully they're in a good shot. It seems like pit stop-wise, they're in a good window, and if the yellows go their way, I think they have a good shot at winning.
Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you.
Guys, that's Chad Reed. You can see why he's one of the greatest. Fans love him. How cool would it be to see this guy out here racing with us, guys?
Well, how about the fact he's racing last night, gets on a plane and comes over and is going to watch the end of the Rolex 24. Will he see Ryan Briscoe and the 10 team finish it out and defend the 24 hours from a year ago? Stay with us. The team that started on pole, the 77. Right now, Ollie Jarvis behind the wheel, running in the second position. But at the start of this race, the biggest question overall for the overall contender was, can they make it all 24 hours? They have never done it before. They've never been in this position before in an endurance race. They've never been able to go this far before. And now we're seeing the 77 with Ollie Jarvis behind the wheel right now contend, running second, maybe get their first ever endurance win here at the Rolex 24.
Well, they are certainly in contention. We have a long way to go right now. This is from here out 3 hours is a normal race distance for a normal weekend. So plenty of time, plenty of opportunity. I'm sure at some point there's going to be another yellow. If there's not, pulling back that 22-second lead that this team of Ryan Briscoe has built up is going to be a tall order. They're going to need some help with the yellow, but at this point, the 10 looks like it's the fastest car on track.
Well, they talked about running a pace, and a pace is all well and good, but you've got to stay close enough to the leader. And, Paul, we were just talking about that in the break. At what point in time do you let the horses run? Is it those last 2 stints? Because you still need to be close enough to get it done. The gap was 20 seconds just a couple of laps ago. It's now up to 22. The 10 seems to have come alive in the daylight. That's not something that we saw yesterday.
And you mentioned last 2 stints. You're looking at about 70 minutes, a little over an hour, which would be remaining in the race when you let them go. Well, you can't get up to the front if you can't see the front. And right now, as you mentioned, Briscoe setting really an incredible pace as we see the 81 LMP2 on pit road, Kevin.
And they have a +1 lap lead on Ben Keating. So Keating and the 52 PR1 Matheson is going to get back on the lead lap at the 81 if all goes well. Should come back out maintaining the lead. Colin Brown out. Ben Hanley, another ace driver who drove the Indianapolis 500 last year and has considerable experience in Europe as well, is back in the car. They've been solid. The 52 team thinks the 81 is just a little bit quicker. We might have something for them through the infield, though. We get a yellow at the right time to get us back in the game.
Not a super smooth stop with the tire change on that. It looks like they had a little problem with the wheel gun and the nut. Had to monkey around a little bit. They just got that finished. But here we go back to Team Penske, and I am just so surprised at the struggles they've had. They had Castro Neves got in an accident early in the race. They are down 21 laps. But this car of Dane Cameron right now, let's look on the onboard. Car is still bottoming the ground. Listen to this thing as we come around here and get up onto the banking. This car has been beating on the ground, and they said it was because it was the cold temperatures and at night. But now we're in the daylight and the track is up to temp. I believe that this car has had a shock failure, and it's just been beating on the ground, and it's been torturous for the drivers. Now, listen to this.
Still on the ground, but I don't see the pogoing on the front end like we saw yesterday, but certainly still on the ground. You can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it hitting the ground. That is the bottom of the car, the skid plates hitting the ground, and the driver is sitting right on the floor of the car, and all of that energy is going right back into the driver, Kevin.
Meanwhile, we see the 912 Porsche coming in. They've been battling the BMW and the sister 911 throughout the day. Matthew Jaminet is getting out of the car. Lawrence Vantor is going to get back in. They've been staggering just a little bit. Their driver changes, so Vantor is in right now. Meanwhile, getting back to the 6 Acura story you talked about, I've talked with one of their team managers, John Boslov, just a few minutes ago, and he said a couple of issues as to why their laps down. They had to do their brake change under green. They were really hoping to make that work under yellow, and they had a hole in the side of the car at one point from damage and spent some time overnight addressing that. He said the biggest issue is simply BOP, what everyone argues about. We're just not quick enough, clearly, as you see the handling, and there's some other issues in the car. It's not perfect at this point, but he said even if it was perfect, we just don't have the power right now to compete with everyone else.
Well, when you don't have the power, you certainly don't want to have the car dragging on the ground on the straightaway where you need it to be free and up off of the ground. Every time that car hits the ground, it slows it down. So that's a combination that is, if you don't have power, you don't want the car dragging on the ground.
We've seen 2 nose changes. I mean, us 3. Yeah. We have seen 2 nose changes for this 6 car. So obviously there was an issue. The porpoising of the car has gotten better, at least right now when we're riding along and watching this. It's gotten better from what it was in the wee hours of the morning.
Let's be realistic. If it was a problem that they could fix, they would have fixed it. They know it's on the ground. But there's something going on that they can't fix.
A 5-lap lead over the car that's next to them in line. So I don't know why when they had the nose off, they didn't make just a quick ride height adjustment, just bring it up a flat or two just to try to get it off the deck.
Certainly more than simple ride height.
Well, running fifth right now is that Acura number 6 for Team Penske. Out in front still, it's the 10 of Ryan Briscoe leading overall in the Rolex 24.
Back at Daytona, green flag pit stop. Underway for the GTLM category. Good look at the car that was your leader in that division, the 24 BMW. John Edwards behind the wheel. Just came onto pit road, routine service, Michelin tires and fuel. The pit crew for him done a nice job today. They got him a spot on pit road, moved him from third to second, which allowed him to then challenge the lead, which he promptly took from the Porsches. They hold on to that top spot right now, again with Edwards behind the wheel, Kevin.
Meanwhile, Matt Campbell just brought in the 911 Porsche in, first year of this new car, and they have been running in the top 3 throughout the day, battling with the BMW. The young Aussie in his first season as a Porsche factory driver stays in for his second stint. Both of the Porsches are still in play, battling the BMW, and don't count out the Corvette and the Ferrari yet at GTLM.
Corvette dives in late on that 911, gets the position. Corvette on hot tires. These guys are coming out on cold. The tires now are coming up to temperature, Brian, quicker than they were when it was night. So these guys were struggling to get tire temperature on the outlap. Now that the sun's out, the track's warming up, these guys are getting up to speed a little bit quicker.
I was just thinking the same thing. If I'm a crew, the tires that are going on the car are going to be sitting out on the wall in the sun. They're going to start getting some temperature in them as much as I can. The other thing is the BMW stopping after the Porsches. Is that a telltale? Does he have a little better mileage? Can he go a little bit further? He certainly did that time. Is that going to be what the difference is for the victory here? They're starting to play and back time from the checkered flag as far as the stops are going.
This race is all about a watch.
Katzberg just jumped into P2, but now the Porsche comes back around the outside as they go two abreast. Will he pinch him off? He does pinch him off, so the Corvette now getting in the mix. This is the first time we've seen them get up in front of these Porsches. They've been kind of right there, but not able to get by, and now Katzberg is by, and will he chase after Edwards and have a shot at this win in this class with this brand new C8?
Yeah, the Corvette folks are so excited about this mid-engine C8R that they have put on the racetrack. As far as the 3 has done spectacular. They had a little oil issue in the 4. They were in the garage for a long time. They're back out on the racetrack, but many laps down. But I mentioned everyone fighting for a watch. Well, right now everyone's looking at the watch because you're under 3 hours. And I know every driver, when you talk to them, they say, can we make it to the 22-hour mark? Because after that, now it's a sprint race to the finish. Kevin?
The 14 just came in. Jack Hawksworth gets out. Parker Chase getting in. Issues. It took them longer overnight to change the brakes than they wanted. Extra time. That's why they're multiple laps down. Kyle Busch might not be done for the day. He was really solid. So the thinking right here is they're not going to win this race. Parker Chase, though, is a young driver that's going to be with them at Sebring again. They want to get him some laps right now. So this is a marquee test session right now for Parker Chase. Maybe Hawksworth gets back in at some point. Maybe Kyle Busch in the 14 Ambassador Sullivan Lexus.
Well, I would think with these guys multiple laps down, they're probably going to let Kyle Busch finish out the race for that experience for him, bring it home. Hopefully, we're going to see Kyle Busch in many more 24 hours to come. I hope he enjoyed this experience. When he had his first stint, guys, he got out of the car with a huge grin on his face, had a great stint. But now that the fact that they don't have a chance at the win, he's got a little bit of a grumpy face going.
Well, I mean, and you can understand he wants to win. He didn't come here to drive around. You know, he could have stayed at home with his family this weekend. They don't get much time off to begin with, but he wanted to win this race, and as you said, he got out. He was thoroughly enjoying it, probably more than he thought he was going to when he first came here.
Yeah, Kyle loves to drive. I mean, any guy that goes to a NASCAR event with how busy these guys' schedules are with sponsors and everything that you have to do at a NASCAR event at the top level, and he'll drive in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, all on the same weekend. So this guy loves to get in the race car and break a sweat. Kevin?
The 77 comes in. I was told about 10 minutes ago they weren't going to make a driver change this time, but I do see that they made the change. The 77 has been struggling to catch up after that overnight penalty, so Ollie Jarvis got out. I need to double check who got in the car, but they need a little bit of time in the pit box, getting in and out, maybe making it up on in and out laps to try to catch up to that 10 and the 5 right now. Dylan.
Sebastian Bourdais behind the wheel of the 5, the Mustang sampling Cadillac, and routine service for him as well as the crew's changing 4 Michelin tires and adding fuel. Again, reminder, expecting Seb to go until about the 90-minute or so remaining mark, and then Loic Duval will get in and finish behind the wheel of this race car. So Seb's going to finish it off here and do a nice job keeping these guys in the hunt.
Aerodynamic dive plane missing off of the left front. On the right front, got a hole in the glass where the lights are. I don't know why they haven't thrown a piece of duct tape or Bear Bond over that, because that will certainly slow you down at straight line speed.
You don't need the headlights anymore. The officials aren't going to be looking for those to be illuminated, so go ahead and fill that hole. The 77 driving by and out of pit lane. Tristan Nunez now being shown behind the wheel. I'm wondering if they're going to put Nunez in for another stint or so and then finish with Plau. I don't think they can put Plau back in right now. He was in just a couple of stints ago. 4 hours in 6. I think he would have been overtime, but I would look to have Olivier Plau as the finishing driver in the 77.
See that hole right there in the front headlight. Big hole, headlight right behind there. That's very draggy when you get up around 180, 90 miles an hour.
And when we saw the 16 change the front end, the nose, it's not that long. It doesn't take a long time to change the nose out. Maybe they'll be doing that later so that they have the freshest car when they go to race for the win at Rolex 24. Out in front, overall leader is Ryan Briscoe, and he is really running away from the competition in the DPI class. Nunez is running in the second spot, but way behind at this point. So Briscoe,
as we said, he's gone from putting that car a lap down to getting back on the lead lap, driving through all the competition, and as of right now, with how the pit stops have fallen, he has a one-lap lead. He's yet to pit, so we'll see how that all shakes out. But what a turnaround, Brian, from starting this triple stint, getting a penalty, and putting them way behind, to now being a lap ahead.
Well, I think he had to reach deep and try to make up for that mistake. But the thing I find interesting, we talked last night about the pace of the 10 car being consistent from fresh Michelin tires to the end of the stint. Wasn't the fastest car on the racetrack. Right now it seems to be one of the fastest cars, if not the fastest car on the racetrack, and that's been impressive. They built this lead over this stint, half a second to 3/4 of a second per lap. It was 20 at one point in time. It built all the way up to 27.
They're getting ready right now. Driver's ready to go in, so he's going to be hitting the pit lane here any second as he comes around the high banks of Daytona into the pit lane right here. Here he comes, boys.
Race leader Ryan Briscoe, bringing the Konica Minolta Cadillac just in front of Dillon.
Oh, and as you guys alluded to, what a day it's been for these guys over the course of this entire race. They've overcame some penalties, a spin on the track earlier in the evening, and they've overcame it all and now find themselves back in the race lead here by a comfortable margin as Ryan Briscoe hits his marks again, ending his triple stint, doing a remarkable job behind the wheel of this 10-car. Kamui Kobayashi climbing aboard. They're expecting him to go to the end, so this should be the last driver change for these guys, and as they get him strapped into the race car, they'll go around and change 4 Michelin tires and add fuel as well. So getting a smooth day for these guys up to this point. They've overcame everything they've had to. Just going to try to finish it off now here over these final 2 hours and 40 minutes or so.
That's a long stint, 2 hours and 40 minutes.
It's a long stint, especially when you got a guy like Scott Dixon standing by. We thought we'd see Kobayashi towards the end and then maybe finish with Dixon, but this is going to be a long run for Kamui.
Nice, clean pit stop. We'll see where all of this shakes out, what their lead is going to be, but monster stint by Ryan Briscoe. This will be an interesting interview if we can get him on camera.
Well, I may believe this when I see it. I think Scott Dixon may still be there as a choice to put in at the end.
Back up through the gears. Now, again, Kamui Kobayashi behind the wheel of the Konica Minolta Cadillac as they hold on to the lead. Pretty substantial lead still over the 77. That's in the DPI and the overall category. As we fall back to the GTD category, it's been impressive runs now for the Lamborghinis, running 1 and 2. Bapelli, Caldarelli, those two in the 44 and the 48, running 1 and 2 in this class.
16, Wright Motorsports Porsche, Patrick Long, he's now in podium position. That car's been strong the entire time. It really kind of has been a battle of Lamborghini versus Porsche. Throw the Audi in there from time to time. Bortolotti having a good run in the 88. But remember that the Audi and the Lamborghini, pretty much the same car. It's the same engine, just kind of a different bodywork. A simple explanation of that.
As we look over at GT Le Mans, Vantor in the 912 Porsche has just finally gotten by Katzberg in the Corvette. So he needs to get on his bike and chase down Edwards in the BMW, who has stretched out away from the Corvette while they were fighting to a 5.2 second lead. So he's got some ground to make up, but plenty of time to do it.
And GTLM, if you're new to sports car racing, they will have the red on the fins and the mirrors. GTD has green on the side of the wing and the mirrors to signify those two different classes in the GT class.
Just to kind of put a period on it and get you looking a little bit further forward back at DPI again. I just checked with our brilliant stats guy, Rick Redicek, down the way. Scott Dixon hasn't been in the car since late last night. He hasn't been in the car today, since midnight. He was always Ganassi's closer. He's fresh. The idea that he's not going to get in the car at the end, I would be shocked.
88-second lead right now for 25 seconds as the timing lines have shook out now. So that's a nice, healthy lead with 3 hours to go. But if a yellow comes out, Rick, then that's going to bunch everything back up. We've still got more pit stops to go with Scott Dixon that fresh. I can't believe that they wouldn't do a driver change in the last 45 minutes.
PT, you wanted to hear from Ryan Briscoe? You always get what you want.
All right.
Here he is.
All right.
Well, and we're people pleasers down here, Rick, so we try to just keep everybody happy up here. So here's Ryan Briscoe, just finished his triple stint, I should say. So went a lap down there with that penalty, had to drive through the field, and then you pull out to, what was it, a 20-second lead. Is this car as good as it looks like it is?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's been handling like a dream since the beginning, so really no complaints. We had a big scare earlier on. The car shut down on me. I had to get down on the apron in NASCAR 3. I thought we were done. Everything just went black. I lost power steering, everything. I reset the ignition. Sort of came to life, but I didn't have power steering. And then we just had to do a breaker was tripped or something, so I reset the breaker and it came to life again. So that happened. We got the penalty for the red light that I didn't see it. So it was chaotic. I was absolutely terrible, and then we sort of recovered and finished the stint strong. So if we just keep it on the track, the car's really strong. I think we're a match for anyone out there. So fingers crossed we're good for the next few hours.
When things like that happen, you still have a lot of time left in the race, but I would imagine in the moment it's frustrating and it's difficult at times to keep your composure. Is that true? I mean, how do you tell yourself that, hey, we still got plenty of time here and this car's good enough that we can overcome a lot here?
Yeah, I mean, a penalty here or there, well, you go a lap down, and here in Daytona, you know, when you get a yellow, you can typically get it back. So we definitely weren't in panic mode, but when the car shut down and I thought I was going to stop on track, that was panic mode. I was already wondering what I was going to do for the next race, wondering what Wayne was thinking up there, but thankfully it all came back to life. We got back on the lead lap, and yeah, it's going well.
It's been an eventful day for these guys, but they find themselves in the lead thanks to this man, Ryan Briscoe. Kevin?
Dylan, one of the Mazdas is still in contention, and it's not the 55. They have an exhaust issue that we've known about for at least a couple of hours down on power. Jonathan Bomarito said, I'm really struggling to even pass GTLMs right now. So they're just trying to save fuel and make the best of it. Ryan Hunter-Reay gets in the car. Meanwhile, for the 77, Tristan Nunez back on the lead lap, but a little bit different pit sequence, about 3 or 4 laps earlier than the 10. But Brad Kettler said, we can. If we get back with them with a caution, we can race with them. Struggling with grip right now, but everybody is. The grip is not as good as it was during the daytime yesterday.
Engine cover comes off for Bomarito, who is in 2 laps down, but Pagenaud has got a chance now. He's a lap behind Bomarito at getting that position for 4th.
Out in front, Kamui Kobayashi behind the wheel of the 10. Maybe if they could get to victory lane, it'll be a double celebration for Ryan Briscoe, who's from Australia. It's Australia Day.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway for the 24-hour Rolex race. Here, it is amazing to see the amount of fans that show up for this event. And it looks a lot like a car show when you take a look around. I'm standing out here by the Porsche parking for the Porsche Club of America. It's right off the International Horseshoe going towards Turn 3. Now, one of the things you'll notice here is you're not going to see the amount of fans in a grandstand at Daytona that you would for, say, the 500 or even the summer race. It's one of the reasons that they have all of these grandstands set up. Take a look. All these people, they get this super unique vantage point that they get to see the cars come by. They got a chance to see the cars go through Turn 3. They can't get up on the bank. But these setups are all over this road course, giving these fans an up-close personal view to see their favorite drivers come flying by. And I can tell you guys up in the booth that this is an incredible vantage point because the way that the speed translates on camera, it's so different in person to see the acceleration, to see how hard the braking is. But one of the great views here at Daytona International Speedway, guys.
You've given us a lot of great views, too, Rutledge.
Check this out, this replay. I almost had a heart attack as we came back from commercial. Kobayashi went whistling down into Turn 1 and got in a big sideways slide. Check this out. Super late on the brakes. Turns in, kind of misses the apex, and then it starts sliding right here. Big sideways right there, laying down rubber. If that thing goes around and ends up in the grass, you will quickly lose that 20-second lead.
It's just another day at the office.
Yeah, catch my breath. I still have 2 hours and 32 minutes to race.
It's
not
good.
a problem. And again, we've heard that Kamui Kobayashi, they have said, and obviously we're not getting all of the information from the teams, but they've said that Kamui Kobayashi could go to the end of this race, which, as I mentioned, just over 2.5 hours remaining. But good chance that Scott Dixon, fresh.
Could go and will go are two very different things.
Well, if he keeps doing big slides like that, they might opt to put Dixon in because you don't see those kind of maneuvers from Dixon. He is as smooth as ice, and that's why they call him the Iceman. He doesn't make mistakes. He rarely gets out of shape. So this car, they're pushing to the max right now. They've been running laps in the 135s. That last lap was a 137.9. A little bit slower because of that big slide he just took. Lead went from 26 seconds down to 24.8.
Dylan.
And Rick, we've caught up with Loeb Duvall before he climbs aboard this 5 car here. Sebastian Bourdais in it right now. Feel like you guys are in a good spot, but maybe not quite as good as the 10. What do you need to happen here to just kind of close that gap and be in contention at the end here?
I mean, we definitely need a yellow right now to be able to catch up, first of all. And then you never know. I mean, this morning the car was really good. At night it was really good. Now it's getting hotter, so you never know if the drive is going toward yourself or against you. But let's see. I mean, it's going to be it's still a long race ahead of us. We're going to try our best for sure. But I believe if we are behind the 10, it will be really difficult to overtake. We are missing some strength, light speed compared to them. So hopefully we can be at the front. If we're in front of them, I think we have a chance to do something.
When you get in the car, when you get in for your final stint, you're full out, wide open? I mean, you're pushing 100% to try and catch up.
Yeah. I mean, I have to be honest with you. I've been pushing quite a lot since the beginning, but yeah, let's see. I mean, I was feeling good in the car. We are getting closer and closer to the checkered flag, so for sure now we have to put everything, we have to give it all and try to take the best out of it.
We're getting down to the nitty-gritty for sure, and again, Sebastian Bourdais expecting to be in the car until about the hour-and-a-half mark, so maybe another hour left, and then Loeb Duvall will get in. Everybody chasing that car, the 10 right now, Kamui Kobayashi.
I got an idea. Why don't they tape up that
nearly 22 of 24 hours complete in the Rolex 24. Things just warming up, literally, here at Daytona, down at the Peacock Pit Box. Look at who's here, one of the 143 drivers who's checking the Rolex 24 off the list here in this year, Kyle Busch. Okay, so couple hours left. Are you getting back in the car, or are you done? You are.
I'll get back in for the final stint. They they got Parker in right now. He's the full-time second driver for the year, so they wanted to get him some more seat time. And they asked me if I wanted to double stint the end, and I said it's more useful for you guys to just have a double stint with Parker and make sure that he gets out there with tires, comes in, does a pit stop, gets back out there with tires to have everything that he learned from the previous one into another run to just get more use and more time on this car.
I know this is tough for you to do, but put the performance aside, as competitive as you are. How has the experience been personally? What have you enjoyed the most? What's been the biggest challenge? Tell us all about it.
Man, there's been a lot of challenges for sure. Looking at the drive time in the middle of the night and then going back to the motorhome and being able to catch a couple hours. They couldn't wake us up, so they had to come in and pound on the door in order to wake me up. I was out, gone. No, it took me 20 minutes to get to sleep, and I know that because I had a stem on my back and it shut off in 20 minutes, and I remember it shutting off as I was shutting off. So, but overall experience though has been fun. It's just a unique opportunity and one that probably doesn't come along very often. But thanks to Toyota and Lexus, I got that chance. And you talk about competition and kind of putting that to the side. I thought we'd come down here for probably a 7th or 8th place run, and I think we're 9th in class or something right now, but we're beating our team car. So Lexus versus Lexus, we're ahead. So I'm taking some solace in that.
Yeah. How about how you have to adapt? When you race, it's a single class, right? NASCAR, you're out there with basically one class. Here, you're not only multi-class, but you're in the slowest of the 4 by rules. How much did it take kind of getting used to the give and take of traffic?
It's not that big a deal, really. Just got to be paying attention and know of your whereabouts. You know them guys are going to be coming, and good to have a good spotter up top. If you don't have good spotters, that could certainly be a problem. But we're racing around some of these class guys and trying to pick and choose and find our moments of being able to pass them. And you got a DP that's coming by and blitzing you, so you either got to settle back in line or you're going to hold him up and piss him off, So there's certainly a balancing act in that, but it's just racing, It's racecraft and figure it out,
Well, you talked about Jack Hawksworth and just how talented he was. How about from the NASCAR side? Did you bring anything on the high banks, anything in traffic? Did you get to teach them any secrets?
I don't know. We have power on the main straights, and when I'm able to get a draft on somebody, I can draft up behind them, and then you can pull out and make a move. And doing some side drafting with a couple guys, and one time I did it too early, and he came back on me, and I was like, okay, all right, I got this. I'm used to that. I know what that means. I would have beat your ass to the start-finish line, but you beat me to turn 1. Okay.
I think Paul Tracy might have a question for you up in the booth. Hey, PT.
Quick question for Rowdy. Is there you're getting out of the car with a smile ear to ear. Is there anything that you take away from your first big road racing experience that is going to help you this year at going for that 3rd championship?
There's always things to be learned anytime you're in the cars. I think the biggest thing for me in driving this car here this weekend is it's almost, I don't know exactly, but I'm thinking it's a little precursor to what's going to happen in 2021 with the NASCAR cars and what we're going to over there. So this got me a little taste of our medicine, maybe of what we're going to see in 2021, of the new car that's coming, the independent rear, the sequential gearbox, that sort of stuff. Obviously, these cars are a little more lazy man with paddles, but it's all fun. I've just tried to relish in the moment, have some fun with it, just go out there and enjoy. And obviously we're not racing for a class victory, so that's a shame. But for what we are doing, we got a job to do. That's to go out there and run hard, race hard. And I've pretty much given it everything I got about every lap I've been out there. And, been putting up some decent times compared to Jack, which is, I feel like, a good compare. Same guy, same car. He got in right after I got in, and stuff was the same. So pretty good.
You didn't seem to prefer to be going out in the middle of the night, and I'm wondering if your opinion of driving in the middle of the night has changed since you've been out there.
Well, I just didn't want that stint because I knew I was going to be awake in the awake hours, and I knew I needed rest in the sleep time hours, and I was going to be awake anyway. So I was just trying to plan ahead for me and not being up for the entire 24-hour race. But I've probably gotten I guess I was down for 2 hours during that. So I've got a total of about 3 hours of sleep in the 24. So I don't think you guys have any, right? So
we got more than you.
Are you bit by the bug now? Will we see you back?
I'd love to come back. You know, with the new rules and everything that came out just a couple days ago with, is it WEC? Is that what it's called? And then IMSA and all that sort of stuff. You know, hopefully there's some things that Toyota's got up their sleeve as to what kind of class they want to participate in and what kind of cars they want to run over here in the next few years. And I would certainly be, you know, all hands on deck to put my hands up to get ready to go for a DP for an overall win.
All right. Well, you'll be back here in a few weeks, of course, for the Daytona 500. And
Absolutely.
back in the car, Kyle said, in just a little bit to close out the Rolex 24. 2 NASCAR Cup championships, 56 NASCAR Cup wins, and now a Rolex 24 to boot. Kyle Busch, like he said, getting back in the car as we close in on the final 2 hours of the 58th running of the Rolex 24. Who will be standing in victory lane for each class? Who will be the overall winner? You got to come back and join us to find out.
It's one of the most prestigious endurance races in North America at one of the most famous racetracks in the world. The Rolex 24 at Daytona International Speedway, closing in on 2 hours remaining in this 24-hour race. And Kamui Kobayashi behind the wheel of the leading DPI car right now, that Cadillac. And we see the 11 go into the grass in front of him. But it has been a little bit crazy for Kamui Kobayashi since he got behind the wheel.
Since they got in the car. He stuffed it in on the Lexuses here, which could have been hugely problematic if they made contact. He ran wide at turn 1. He had a big slide at turn 1. He just got sideways coming off the bust off. If I'm Wayne Taylor, I'd be like looking at this with an eyebrow raised and saying, maybe I need to pull him out on the next stop because he's taking a lot of chances.
If he hasn't answered the question as to whether Scott Dixon's going to get in to close, I don't know. I mean, that one I understand a little bit. He sees the Lamborghini in front of him get a little bit loose. He probably checks up off the throttle a little bit, which causes the car to yaw. But, I mean, he seems almost a little bit desperate to match the pace that Briscoe was.
Well, he just missed the apex and the horseshoe there by about, a 2-car width. So it's just been a ragged stint for him. The pace is okay. He's a couple tenths off of what Briscoe had done, but it's just been a little bit messy, a lot of mistakes.
How focused do you have to be right now? I mean, we've heard from Kyle Busch. He talked about, maybe only getting 2-3 hours of sleep. Kamui Kobayashi here. Can he go the remainder of this race?
We're 22 hours coming up into a 24-hour race, and there's the Iceman, Scott Dixon. You will not ever see mistakes by this guy, but now we're getting into the time of the race where drivers are tired, they're dehydrated, their backs are sore, their necks are sore, and when all of that compounds itself, you start making mistakes.
Well, we talked about it. The cars are tired, the drivers are tired. What driver on that team is not tired? Scott Dixon, and he is a fitness freak. He works out at Jim Leo's Pit Fit Training, and he's in great shape, Kevin.
So when I heard the call to the 55 and Ryan Hunter-Ray bring it around slowly, I wondered if they had a fatal engine issue because they've been down on exhaust. But instead, it's a right rear. They only changed the right rear, and he stalled it. He did. He stalled it. So the 55 already out of contention in this race, multiple laps down, and their woes continue. 77 is still a player, though.
Yeah, 4 laps down for the 55. He gets it refired. He'll take back off again.
Just finishing what I was saying about Scott Dixon and his fitness. He pushes Jim Leo, who is the head of Pit Fit Training, and you're familiar with Jim.
Yeah.
Works with a lot of drivers, and Scott pushes him and says, "You're not working me hard enough. I can get through all of this." I don't think I ever said to one of my trainers, "You're not working me hard enough. Challenge me more."
Well, the good thing about Scott Dixon is he's incredibly efficient. He doesn't do things like get sideways and lock brakes, and all of those things cause your heart rate to elevate. When the car's snapping sideways and you're wrestling with the car, you're breathing heavier, you're hanging onto the wheel harder, you're flexing your arms and your shoulder muscles more, and that all elevates the heart rate. Scott is very good at just regulating himself and driving within the limit of the car and getting the most out of it.
Hence the Iceman.
Yeah.
And again, that car out in front, it's Kamui Kobayashi who is behind the wheel now. We have seen a few mistakes, you would call them maybe mental errors, since he has got back behind the wheel. But he does have a 30-second lead over Tristan Nunez, who is driving the 77.
Then stop being bold.
He hasn't stopped being bold. Kevin?
Meanwhile, in LMP2, it's Dragon Speed trying to win for the second year in a row with an entirely different driver lineup. Ben Hanley is in plus 1 lap on the 52 of Ben Keating. And Keating, by the way, has fulfilled his driver requirement, so he could get out at any time. Hanley is going to give way to young Harrison Newey, and then Hanley is going to come back in to finish. So Colin Brown, excellent job. He's done for the day. It's going to be up to Hanley to try to bring home the Rolex in LMP2 for Dragon Speed.
A little bit of the wrap material missing off the front of that car. They wrap these cars now instead of painting them. It's a weight savings for these cars. The wrap material weighs less than what it would take to paint a car and clear it. So up on front there where it's black, the wrap material is peeling away from the high speeds. 190 miles an hour on the high banks here. So Porsche's looks the same as that. So just something to keep your eye on. If one of those big pieces of wrap peels off and ends up out on the track and ends up in the air inlet for one of these cars, we saw that earlier in the race. A car had to pit with some material that got over the inlet.
Well, the good thing about that is when you get some debris in the inlet versus one of the coolers, the inlet cuts air, so the engine's going to run rich, which means it's going to run a little bit cooler. It won't make horsepower, but it gets more fuel than air. If you get something on the radiator, then you have to worry about overheating. Kevin?
Jordan Taylor is now in the Corvette. The thought was that they're going to get better as it warms up a little bit. I talked to Jordan right before he climbed in a moment ago. He said, well, that's a hope, but he didn't sound super confident at this point. They're trying to make up some pace and get back in this, and they've done a nice job of that. He's going to do a single stint, and Antonio Garcia is going to get in to finish it up for that new Corvette.
Yeah, Dale Jr. can tell us up there, when you get a hot dog wrapper at Daytona, gets on your front of your grill, it immediately will start overheating. So you get some wrap material comes off one of these cars and it goes in the radiator inlet or into your throttle body, the air inlet for the throttle body. Big trouble for these cars.
Still up front, though, we might as well be looking at timing and scoring from yesterday afternoon, about 4 o'clock. It's the 24, the 912, and the 911. That battle in GTLM has stayed that way. As you see the 77 come to pit road.
Yeah, Nunez currently running in the second position. This is overall, he had he was about 20, a little over 20 seconds behind Kobayashi before this pit stop.
Maybe one more stint for Nunez, and then expect to see Pla and driver's side door, or the passenger side door open, I should say, and looks like replacing the drink bottle in their routine stop. Be cool, be calm, be collected, make sure you do everything just right. You'd rather lose a second on pit road right now by doing it right than losing 10 or 15 seconds by making a mistake.
And you can't afford any mistakes as a driver as you come out. You can't afford to get a speeding penalty coming in. You can't get one going out, because at this stage of the race with 2 hours left, if you get a drive-through penalty, it's really going to hurt you. And I'm hoping these guys are going to put some tape over that hole in that front light. They're lacking straightaway speed, and it would only take a few seconds for them to put some tape over that, which might help their cause.
That damaged nose is driving you crazy.
It is. I just don't know why they just don't throw some tape over it.
Looks like Sebastian Bourdais has gotten out of that car. We'll find out who has just climbed in, as 2 hours and 11 minutes remain in the Rolex 24. A driver change there for the 5 team. Bourdais was in. They're running in the 3rd position, all chasing after the 10. Right now, Kamui Kobayashi behind the wheel of that Cadillac. And as they are getting ready to come off of pit road, we'll find out exactly who is back behind the wheel of the 5.
Look, Duvall now in.
Duvall.
He'll take it to the checkered. It's going to be a 2-hour plus stint for Loic Duvall, but he's the fastest driver in that number 5 car, and he'll be in there until the checkered flag.
Pagenaud's worked himself up to 4th. He has gotten by the 55 of Hunter Ray, but look who's getting ready to go. AJ Allmendinger, fresh hair, he's ready to go. Got his game face on. Let's see you get it done, boy.
It had been away for a long, long time. It hadn't had any changes in its balance performance, so certainly it was in good shape at Petit Le Mans. The team was able to take advantage of the fact they were on the slightly good side of average, let's say, in the balance of performance, and came away with the victory. Well, here they've been pegged back a little bit, and they've maybe the pendulum swung a little bit the other way, but certainly not by very much. It's not as certainly isn't as if the car has been outclassed or anything like that.
Let's be honest, it's been such a high level of competition with the 4 cars ahead of them. Brand new Corvette, 2 brand new Porsches, and a reinvigorated BMW number 24, who really just haven't made any mistakes, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And the 24 BMW, I guess, had to make a brake change under green, because that green flag went so long overnight. They had to make their stop under green, but it was a great stop. They lost maybe a lap, but they got that lap back, and now are showing that car's pace, and they're also showing good resilience now as we head into the final stages. 2 hours and 8 minutes remaining, and the gap between John Edwards and the number 912 car of Laurens Vanthoor, the Porsche, that's been around about 5 seconds, give or take, all the way through this stint towards the end of which we are now approaching. 713 laps completed now for the number 24 car and the number 912, just 5 seconds exactly between them. The next Porsche, Matt Campbell, that had edged in just a little bit, but has edged away a little bit in the last few laps as well. 11 seconds back to 3rd position. And then the number 3 Corvette, which is on a slightly different pit stop strategy, that stopped about 10 laps ago and has resumed ahead of the number 62 Ferrari, which was in just 3 laps ago.
Again, fantastic consistency by Kamui Kobayashi. 136.3 last time around.
Yeah,
and that car, as I said, it looks right, and the guys are clearly enjoying driving it. When Renger got out after his I say that, and there Kamui just going a little bit wide over the curbs and onto the runoff area at the exit of turn 6. But when Renger got out during the night, he just said, I was really enjoying myself. It felt good. Everything about the car felt good. The guy said, relax, you're doing fine. And I did. And I went faster. almost by accident, you hear drivers talking and engineers talking about allowing the track and the car to come to you, and sometimes just relaxing a little bit takes a little bit of tension out your arms and your legs. And Renger got out with his trademark beaming smile, Jeremy, having done 3 absolutely quality stints.
Yeah, just tremendous. I mean, really, really impressive. Here now is the number 912 Porsche, so out of second place in GTLM.
Michael Osborne, I've been listening to a lot of the race, really enjoying it. Great to see lots of green flag action. Hope that Christina was okay after the fire. We haven't heard anything actually as an update from the team, but she did get out of the car herself. Let's hope everything is fine. Best of luck, says Michael Osborne to her and the rest of the Gear GRT racing team.
757 laps then down now for number 10 car. If that comes in on schedule, it'll be in the pit lane next time around. But he's running a little bit more conservative pace now. Is Kobayashi? He was running low 35s. He's now running 36s. I think he's just been told, look, just take it easy. Really go as much as cruise mode as you can without losing concentration.
Yeah,
save a little bit more fuel as well. That's right, because 23 laps if it's been its regular stint, then to capable of 24 under green flag conditions, and it'll be 23 next time around if we see that car onto the pit lane.
Porsche number 912 went out with Earl Bamber now at the wheel, so it's John Edwards, Matt Campbell, Earl Bamber, Jordan Taylor, the top 4. And you would think at this stage that the podium top 3 will come from that top 4 as it stands at the moment in GTLM. Someone's going to be unlucky, and they're not on exactly the same pit stop runs.
And there is number 10 car right on schedule.
Well done, Jeremy. They're tuned into you on 107.9.
Full driver change there, just fuel and tyres I would expect for number 10 car, John.
That looks like a is that a used set?
Scrubbed, probably.
Scrubbed, yes, possibly. Do you know about the only thing that I can say about that Cadillac number 10 that isn't exactly pristine is they've got a bit of condensation in the left-hand headlight. I mean, it's bearing.
Into the pits.
Mirko Bortolotti's done his fair share. He's trying to put pressure on Andrea Caldarelli. Joe Bradley joining us back in the pit lane, taking over from Jamie Howe. Off to Marian's for a spot of lunch before the run to the end of the race. Good morning, Joseph.
Mr. Hindhoff is just saying good morning to me. Good morning, everybody. We're going to need a translator here because I'm just chatting to Piers Phillips.
Oh dear.
From BMW RLL. It's our annual review on North East football, Piers.
Oh dear. Let's not talk
about
that.
Newcastle United a 0-0 draw against Oxford United in the FA Cup.
No way.
And Sunderland. Well, let's move on to the racing, huh?
Well, we had Dave Lister here earlier on, who's a Middlesbrough fan, so we have the Holy Trinity as far as football is concerned. I'll come back to you in a second because I wouldn't mind hearing from Piers Phillips, actually. The number 911 into the pit lane.
Yeah, so I'd expect the Piers Phillips, his BMW next time around, John, 24.
Yeah, and that looks like... did Campbell get out of that car? I'll check for you in a moment. So, Joe, expecting that number 24 BMW, Piers Phillips, the leading car, leading the class. They must be. I mean, it's a game of two halves, to use the football analogy. One car not quite in the fight, but the 24 car very much is in the fight. What a fight that's been for them and the Porsches. Joe Bradley.
Thank you, John. And for the listeners from anywhere else other than the Northeast, you can translate later. Piers, I've kind of made a bit of a tradition to grab you at this point of the race. You came here as reigning champions. As ever, 24-hour racing throws things at you. If you can, give me a bit of a précis of how it's gone. I know you've got mixed fortunes in the cars 24 and 25.
I think it's, well, apart from the problem we had on the 25 car early on in the race, it's gone according to plan. You know, it's this race throws everything at you. Yeah, I think everyone's very astonished at how many, or the lack of yellows we've had this year, which has obviously kept everybody running. But it's about execution. You know, it's about getting through the night, staying out of trouble, avoiding the traffic, and being here at the end to fight with everybody else.
And it's been a great, really competitive race. Piers, you've been around motorsport at many levels. What's your thoughts, your personal thoughts, firstly, on the new Convergence release that we heard the other day, and how this is going to take sports car racing into the future?
I think it's marvellous. I think it's what the industry and what the discipline needs. I think the chance for the American teams to go to Europe and hopefully the European teams to come here and compete against each other. I think that global platform for all the manufacturers as well, it's amazing. You know, it's motorsport changes, doesn't it? And you've got to move with the times, and I think this is a great announcement.
And also from a team perspective, a company like RLL, they must look towards the premier categories and think, you know, we could, you know, get some customers interested, whether that be, you know, the gentleman driver aspect or a manufacturer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a Rahal standpoint, obviously we want to be at the front. We want to be winning outright, you know, as well as in class, and to compete against those other teams and those other manufacturers at that sort of level is what it's all about. You know, we have high expectations and high deliverables, and we want to be there.
And arguably, we start the IMSA season at one of the toughest races of the whole season, don't we? And then it's not exactly downhill from here, but it's got exciting prospects in store this year.
No, absolutely. I think we're all looking forward to the fight. Obviously, in GTLM, the new cars that are in the mix. Obviously, this is our third year with this M8 BMW, so we know the old girl quite well now. But it's you know, you look at the diversity of the championship and the circuits and how it suits some cars and not others. It's fascinating. It's thrilling, and it's great to be here and competing with the best in North America.
And Piers, if you could give our fans a bit of insight, your job here this weekend. I see you up on the pit perch there. You're obviously, you know, engrossed in the performance of the team. But what sort of information, what sort of information comes from the two cars going round and round a racetrack?
Well, it's the usual thing, isn't it? You know, guys are talking about balance, where they're talking about strategy, etc., and trying to work out how to outsmart everybody else.
Yes, and that's why we love it. Thanks for talking to us, mate.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Piers Phillips.
Yeah, good insight. So interesting, isn't it?
I think he's running one of the cars that he's put. I'll ask you, Joe, is Piers actually doing strategy for one of the cars and actually calling strategy for one of the cars this weekend? I know he's president of the racing operations, that's his day-to-day job, but what's he doing here at the track?
Well, I'll ask him that, because I'm still with him. We're about to talk football. John's just asking, do you have any involvement? Do you interfere, I think is what he means, with your engineers?
I interfere and make sure everyone's doing their job.
Because you were, you know, that's where you were on the pit. I remember when you were at SEAT, you were the race engineer, and how did you take the president of whoever you worked for interfering in what you were doing?
I ignored him.
So his job, John, then, and therefore his job, to sum it up, is to be ignored by all these of his engineers.
Right, seems reasonable. Thank you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You.
And while we saw an excellent pit stop once again for that number 24 BMW, the car has come out of the pits, and it's got the number 912 looking to go around the outside of the horseshoe, and it's done it again.
He's got down the inside, of course, for the left.
Outside of turn 5, he has the inside for turn 6. We're going to have a new race leader in GTLM.
Oh, that was a quality move again by the Porsche driver Earl Bamber, taking no prisoners, and he knew he had to get a couple of cars lengths gap up onto the high banks as well, because here comes the BMW. How close is it going to be? He's going to go down the inside. Earl just drifts gently into the middle of the road and then moves back to the racing line. Now he's got to get a really good exit from the bus stop, and Bamba gets a brilliant exit from the bus stop. Takes what, 5, 6, 7 car lengths out of the BMW, but he's going to need, Jeremy, all of that, because we've seen these RLL cars, and particularly the 24, start to drag it back from round about the middle of turns 3 and 4, which is where he is now, coming out of 4 now onto the tri-oval. And for this lap, I think that Bamba will be all right. So what can Jesse Krohn? It's Jesse Krohn again behind the wheel of that car, and he knows exactly where to put that car and where his strengths, the car's strengths and weaknesses are.
Indeed, and he's got to make sure he doesn't take too much out of this fresh set of Michelin tyres in the early part of this stint. That's what John Edwards did a fabulous job of over the last couple of stints at the wheel at number 24 car. Jesse Krohn knows that car is fast. He knows its strengths and weaknesses, as you said, John Hindhoff. And now he's just got to be patient, stick around here, get inches way closer to the Porsche, and make an incisive move if and when the opportunity presents itself. We're now inside 2 hours to go in this race.
And the key thing for that pass was that Bamba knew he had to get it done that lap before the Michelin tyres came up to pressure and temperature, because he knows that Krohn won't want to push too hard before he gets the car right underneath him. So let battle commence. An hour and 56 minutes on the nose for GT Le Mans victory. By the way, Jordan Taylor is only 10 seconds further back from this battle, and a second and a half ahead of Nick Tandy. 20 seconds further back, James Collado in the Risi Competizione, the bright red Ferrari.
Yeah, and the number 3 car and number 62, I think everybody's good to go here on it'll be what, 2 more pit stops. I think 2 more pit stops, but the number 3 car, if that can manage, I'm not quite sure, that might be just outside it. Number 62 car I think is good to go on that strategy. Is it 2? I can't think. 2 hours to go, doing about 50 minutes. I guess that's 2 more stops, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the number 62 car certainly is going to need less fuel. Number 3 car, well, if that can reach that same window to get to the end with 2 stops from here, after that out of schedule stop an hour or so ago, after the off by Nicky Katzberg, then I'm sure they would have back-timed the race from there to ensure they didn't come in. They came in with the timing such that they could get to the end on a certain number of pit stops, which I think at that stage would have been 3 more.
Yes, that would have been that would hopefully have been the tactics. Meanwhile,
back in GTD land, as we see that gap between the first 2 in GTLM, it's remaining, what, 10-15 car lengths. In GTD, as the battle for the 3rd and 4th rages on in GTLM, with the Corvette just ahead now of the number 9-11 car. So that's closed in quite rapidly over the last couple of laps. It was a couple of seconds not too long ago. Now it's a couple of car lengths between the Corvette and the Porsche as the LMP2 car leader goes through. Pit stop there was a little while ago for number 48. That has put number 44 car back in the lead of the race in GTD by 1.2 seconds. Excuse me.
All of 1.2 seconds, Jeremy.
Over number 48. So it's Lamborghini 1-2. Mirko Bertolotti is now 16 seconds back in the 3rd place Audi.
We're at that stage, Jeremy, where you start looking at the stories and what might happen. Corvette's just ahead of Nick Tandy, and Tandy's coming. This is for 3rd place on the GT LM podium, the final step. Tandy commits to the inside at turn 1, then drops to the outside. He'll try and square the corner off and get on the power earlier. It's exactly what happens. Through 2A, the little kink. Now down to the International Horseshoe. Tandy shows the nose of the car and gets down the inside. That's great driving from Tandy. Set that up from turn 1. The battered nose, or what looks like a battered nose of the 911, it's actually just the paintwork peeling off, or the wrap painting off, and the beautiful carbon fibre weave underneath it. Prototype coming through there as well as Loic Duval. 62 with a penalty. 62 with a penalty. Wheels moving whilst they were on the jack stands. That'll be a drive-through. That's the 62 out of it then, because that will take them off the lead lap, I reckon. Oh,
yeah, that's a shame.
That is a shame. And look, there was like a little touch between the Corvette before it lost that position there.
It was close, but Jordan Taylor left the door wide open down there, isn't he, for the Porsche to sneak on through? That was somewhat surprising for Jordan
Hour and
to do
52,
that.
is that not their battle right now? Maybe that's what they've just said. Hard to wonder.
Yeah, maybe. In GTD, by the way, number 54 car got back onto the lead lap, the Black Swan Racing team. They were desperately hoping for a caution over the last couple of laps or so since number 48 Lamborghini made its stop and got it back, got the 54 car back on the lead lap. Not to be, however. So number 54 car has its own pit stop, and I think will go back to being the best of the cars, 1 lap down in GTD in 5th position. But still been a magnificent run for that team. Next up in line will be the number 96 BMW. It's Jens Klingmann at the wheel of that car at the moment. And behind him, by about a half a minute, Alessandro Balzan in the number 63 Ferrari. And the number 57 Acura is also on that 1 lap down. One of the cars 1 lap down.
It's Jeremy Shaw. We're inside the final 2 hours now. Hours 23 and 24 is all there is to come. Johnny Palmer flexing like a driver, ready to do the crucial final stint. You ready for this, JP? This has been an absolute belter, and I think there's still, well, there are still things to be resolved. Looks like the 62 Risi car is taking itself out of contention. Any slim chance they had in GT Le Mans, but certainly at the front of that field, Earl Bamber, another decisive move from him, while Jesse Kron was on cold tyres, but they're only half a second apart, and now Nick Tandy is in full hunt mode there as well in GT Daytona. Battles out on the circuit, and here comes Marco Mappelli and Andrea Caldarelli absolutely together going up onto the banking, Jeremy, out of turn 6.
Yeah, after 703 laps, half a second between those two. And Mirko Bertolotti lost about a second over the last 3 or 4 laps in the 3rd place Audi. The Lamborghinis, they've had brilliant pace all the way through this week, and they're running 1-2 at the moment, but it's the GRT Magnus car, Marco Mappelli, who has the lead at the moment, but right behind him there is Andrea Caldarelli. Nose to tail, the 2 Lamborghinis go through the bus-up on a really good run by Caldarelli. Got a much faster exit, but he's not quite able to sneak alongside number 44 car there on the low side of the banking, coming around 3 and 4, but absolutely nose to tail. There's no more than a foot or so between those cars as they come up toward the tri-oval.
Well, Jeremy Shaw, they're back at it again, underneath our feet, down to turn 1. It looks absolutely tremendous. 2 Lamborghini Huracans, and they're well ahead of their nearest challenger, Mirko Bortolotti. He's not come across the line yet as we head down to Diana Binks in the pit lane.
I'm with Felipe Nasso from the number 31 Welland Engineering. Felipe, you've had a number of challenges during this race this weekend. What's been the main problems?
Well, it didn't go the way we wanted for sure. From the beginning of the race, I felt some like harsh upshifts already, and the gearbox just gave up in the middle of the night, and we lost 2nd gear, and that just made our life a lot harder, having to drive 3rd gear all the way into the infield, but just trying to survive out there. So one of those things, once the car is out there, you can't really control that. So unfortunate. I feel sorry for the guys because we made, so much preparation over the past months, and all drivers, myself, mechanics, and it's hard to see the Welland Engineering having a tough time, but that's racing, And I'm sure we're gonna get another opportunity soon.
I know that you always try and deal with all the challenges as they hit you, and it's clearly very frustrating, as you say. Good team of drivers, good team here, but you have to keep going, don't you? You have to keep trying to find a solution.
Yeah, I mean, the race is not over, so I'm going to get back in the car. And when I'm out there, I'm giving the best, you know, for my boys over here. And again, racing bites you back. I would love to be back here at Daytona and win this race. That's for sure the aim in the future.
What's the balance of the car like now? Is it handling fine now after the earlier issues?
Oh, well, I mean, the car has a little bit of damage, a little bit there and here, but it's handling fine. But it's never going to be perfect, right? So, I mean, not much to say, really. I feel the car number 10 has been handling pretty well. You could see they have the pace, you know, all day long. So hats off to them. And but again, I feel like we all did a pretty good, solid job. But you know, the car gave up this time.
Thanks, Felipe.
But as Felipe and people know, you know, they know how to win championships. NASA did that a couple of years ago. Wants to do the same again this season, and they come away with a top 7 finish. It's not what they wanted, certainly. And you know, there's only 8 cars in the class, and they're only right now actually, you know, no, they're still 11 laps ahead of the next car in the category, but they're 4 laps behind number 85. Not going to catch that. So at this stage, it's kind of frustrating because you know, you're going to drive the cars as hard as you can, but there's really no extra points or positions to be gained unless somebody else has a problem.
But even then, it's got to happen quickly to make the laps up, unfortunately. And you don't really want to wish ill on your competitors. That's not how racing karma works. All right, 2 GT battles that are still raging as Johnny Palmer rejoins us. Down in turn 1, you've got the GT Daytona battle, 2 manufacturer cars from the same manufacturer, not teammates, but manufacturer mates, the Lamborghinis, heading into the International Horseshoe. Meantime, on NASCAR 3 and 4, Porsche leads BMW. Rivals, I'd say so, 2 German marques who have been competitors and rivals for a very long time indeed. And there's a certain amount of pride from those 2 great teams as well as those 2 great manufacturers as the BMW closes right in under braking at turn 1.
Yeah, super battle, isn't it? And coming across the line not too far back now is the battle between the number 9, 11, number 3. They were absolutely tied together last time around. A little bit more of a gap between them this time as they head into turn 1. But the battle for 3rd place, there's only a second between those 2 as well. So there are battles for 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th in GTLM. But it's the battle for the lead in GTD. I mean, there's been a car length between each of those 2 Lamborghinis for the last half a dozen laps, and that battle is continuing.
They're putting on a great show, Johnny Palmer, and I don't mean that this is staged in any way, shape or form, but let's just remind ourselves we've been racing for 23 hours and 15 minutes. We've smashed the record for the number of green flag laps. I had it at 281. It's actually officially been posted as 280, 7 hours and 48 minutes and 23 seconds, and we're looking at possibly, if we get a decent run of fair winds and the sun stays out, putting another 20 laps and more on the lap records distance that we set back in 2018, which had blown the previous one away as if you'd shot it into space.
Yeah, we didn't think it would be beaten so quickly, did we? You know, 2 years ago.
We'll never see that again.
Made a huge inroad into the record books, and well, this fabulous era of endurance racing, where for the leaders, not a lot breaks. I mean, you know, sprint racing for literally 24 hours, and I know we've seen for a lot of the GTD runners some problems. Some of them large, some of them small, but these 2 Lamborghinis have kept going. Marco Bappelli in the 44, the blue Magnus car, and Andrea Caldarelli in the Paul Miller Racing example, and they are still pounding off the laps. 707 laps now completed for the GTDs, but the full-time distance record for the overall leader of Kamui Kobayashi now on to lap 772. and we had 8:08 to beat at the start of it, so mightily impressive. Still, 831 is the predicted race distance.
At the front of the field, Kamui Kobayashi's now got a 30-second lead, another 35.5 last time around, so Kamui heeding the advice of the team. Here he comes, goes on the high side. The Ferrari 62 had to wait just for a moment there for the leader to come round. There was a thought clearly in the mind of James Collado. Now that car has not come in yet for its drive-through, has it?
Yes.
Oh, it has.
It served that a couple of laps
ago.
Right,
so it's just stayed on the lead lap then. I thought it might drop off the lead lap. So all is not yet lost for Risi Competizione, who will be back at Sebring, is what we're hearing from the team in Super Sebring. And the drivers here this weekend, a couple of them at least will be employed in the WEC portion of that Super Sebring weekend. Here it goes again, Johnny and Jeremy. The two Lamborghinis, all of a sudden, whatever rapprochement there might have been, because they're the same manufacturer, with an hour and 41 minutes, 101 minutes, JP. The battle's on for GT Daytona and the win.
Yeah, it might be the same mark, but two very different entities in the form of GRT Magnus and Paul Miller Racing, and they'll desperately want to take this class victory. And Caldarelli nearly getting the outside line out of the Western Horseshoe and into turn 6, but he couldn't quite manage to get there. So he's going to sit in the wheel tracks again. That's fine, still got an hour and 40 to go. And up onto the high banks, those two Huracan GT3 Evos go once more. Meanwhile, Kamui Kobayashi, 772 laps completed, half a minute's advantage over Tristan Nunez in the Mazda DPI. That is the 77 car. The 5 of Loic Duval makes it another Cadillac in the top 3, and an Acura and Mazda run in 4th and 5th positions, with Juan Pedrahita in the 85 car, the JDC Miller Motorsports machine. That's the Cadillac that runs in 6th position. Meanwhile, the LMP2 leader is Harrison Newey for Dragon Speed USA. The 81 car has a big advantage. Over a minute back to the next car was actually a DPI, and then 48 seconds further adrift is Gabby Aubry in the PR1 Matheson Motorsport Orica. And it's been a fight, really, over the second half of the race between 81 and 52, and 81 now really starting to be dominant.
Yeah, I mean, it's still only, is it a lap? It's just about a lap out, but, you know, it's been a great battle between those two, and they've had, you know, a couple of little niggles, but certainly nothing too serious with either of them. But it's just great to watch these battles all ongoing in GTD. These two Lamborghinis, they've been together now for the last, well, since the round of pit stops, the last 8 or 9 laps, and absolutely nothing to choose between them. We saw a couple of times that Caldarelli seemed to get a really good run out of the bus stop, but Mappelli does enough to stay ahead in the number 44 car. Meanwhile, it's Mirko Bertolotti who's driving the WT Audi in 3rd position, and he's not really been able to make any inroads at all. The gap between the two Lambos and the Audi remaining pretty constant, around about 18-19 seconds. Not too far behind them, though. Klaus Bachler remains on the lead lap, also in the 4th position. Then the first car 1 lap down, Jerome Bleckermolen at the wheel of car number 54, the Black Swan Porsche.
This GTD battle's going to run and run all the way to the flag for another, well, 90 minutes plus. So let's savour this. And the GTLM battle still rages between Porsche and BMW. Bear in mind the 911 car, Nick Tandy looking to try and get involved. 143.1 last time around. That's still quite a bit quicker than the two jostling for position out front. 912 Earl Bamber, 24 Jesse Crone for the BMW team RLL squad, and the M8. That was a brief glimpse of the 4.2-litre flat 6 in the middle of the Porsche. Oh, it's very tight indeed at the International Horseshoe, and the
race leader overall, getting bottled up briefly behind the two GTLM leaders. There was overlap there for Jesse Krohn, just getting his front wheels level with Earl Bamber's rears, but no way through because it was so tight as the Konica Minolta car was trying to squeeze by on lap 7.75. Tristan Nunez in from second position on the road into the pit lane in the Mazda then.
Number 3 car is out of fourth position in the number 3 Corvette in making its pit stop there with an hour and 40 minutes to go. I think he can get to the end from here with just one more pit stop. So they are, it'll be 2 more full stops for the number 3 car and 2 more, well, almost also 2 more stops for the number 12 for the leaders. Number 9, 12 and 24 remaining absolutely tied together in their battle for the lead, as are the 2 Lamborghinis in GTD. It's a pit stop for the 3rd position overall Mazda.
Yes.
Or it was 2nd place. It now will drop to 3rd with this pit stop.
Yeah, so the 5 car briefly back ahead, despite the fact that the Mazda's not really got the speed of a couple of the Cadillacs. It had wedged its way between the 2 prior to that stop. So Loic Duval now with an opportunity to see what he can do to reel in the race leader. But the problem is it's Kamui Kobayashi driving the number 10.
That's right.
He's so fast in comparison.
He is, and the number 5 car this time staying out a lap longer than the number 77 as Andrea Caldarelli looks to the outside line here at, where was that? Was that turn 5, wasn't it? Trying to make a lunge down the inside 6. No, it's not going to be close enough there. Super battle between these 2 Lamborghinis. These 2 drivers, of course, know each other extremely well. They've been teammates at Lamborghini for quite a long time. For this year, Bertolotti, who did a lot of development on this Huracan, is in 3rd place behind them. But Mapelli and Caldarelli, again, they've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, Marco Mapelli, the 32-year-old Italian, who was an Endurance Series champion last year in the SRO European-based championships, and Andrea Caldarelli, his reputation precedes him as well. Mightily impressive through various categories, including a bit of Super GT.
I believe one of Mapelli's other claims to fame is a lap record of some sort around the Nordschleifer as well. I think in one of these cars.
So here comes the 44, and Magnus preparing for this car. Joe Bradley's right at the pit stall, ready for, well, what's got to be the penultimate stop for this car, or they will hope so.
Oh, it's getting intense, isn't it? This is the stage of the race where we cannot afford any kind of slip-ups, mishaps, any kind of belligerent wheel nut. The team leap off the wall. They go to the 44 Lamborghini now. It's being fueled. It's not having a different driver installed. So Marco Mapelli will stay at the wheel of this car. And so far, so good. Right-hand rear wheel coming off. New Michelin tyre going on. Brand new rubber, conserving the sets for the 44, taking this car to its final pit stop. Fueling now. The only thing left. And the 44 car will be underway. A bit of steam coming out the breather of the cooling system as it sits there, just soaking up the heat. The fueling's still going in. It feels like an age at this stage. And you might have gathered by that soundbite that the 44's now left.
Yeah, indeed. So great stuff, Joe Bradley. And I think they took a tear off the windscreen as well. The sun's pretty high in the sky now, but you know it's been a long, hard race, and I'm sure the windscreen was getting pretty pitted. So get a tear off will take him a little bit better visibility as we see the now 2nd place car onto pit lane as well. That's car number 5.
Yeah, with Frenchman Loic Duval at the wheel. It was pretty tight on the exit there for the 44 because the 25 of Colton Herta was released at the same time, but Colton just that little bit behind in the GTLM BMW, the white one, so had to cede position heading out of pit lane, but ran right across the grass and kicked up dust as he did so. Let's go back to the pits, and Diana Binks watching more stops.
I'm at the other end of the pit lane, but it was just to let you know that the number 10 was making its way, the race leader making its way into the pit stop, so that will be Joe at the other end.
Right, so let's go straight to Joe Bradley, who's also got the number 10 Konica Minolta machine, as Guy mentioned.
The Konica Minolta Cadillac. Again, what we're seeing here is fuel and tyres only, no driver changes going on the number 10. And once again, pretty standard. Clean of the windscreen, very quickly done. Tyres, car off the jacks now, fueling done.
Yes, Joe, there goes the Cadillac, but I wasn't expecting to see that car on the pit lane for another 5 laps or so. And I think by stopping now, he's going to commit himself to one more pit stop. So maybe just have a quick word there, see, was there any sort of a problem? Was that pit stop a little bit earlier than they had originally anticipated?
Definitely worth asking the question, and Joe will oblige, I'm sure. Whether he'll get an answer or not at this late stage is another thing entirely. But yeah, we can go straight to Joe for his thoughts.
Not my thoughts. The man who's in charge of this one.
Even better.
Wayne Jeremy's telling me that was maybe 5 laps a little early. Strategy coming into play now.
You know, we feel like we got a bit of an advantage at the moment. And, you know, we're just calculating every little bit about potentially a yellow and all these kinds of things. So these guys, these strategists here next to me are like brain surgeons. So I just agree with whatever they say, and then I look good. But no, it's all about, you know, when we had almost lapped the field, we got a caution and it changed the whole race. And even though we're leading again now, you can get a caution and change it again. So I think there's a bit of strategy going on fuel consumption and who can go the longest.
I take it you want that final stint to be as long as possible. Just get out there and stay out on track.
Yeah, and we have the man to do it.
You have Wayne. I'm not going to say anything more because you know how things go. But thanks, Wayne Taylor, for being open and honest there. And, yep, strategy coming into play. We're getting into the realms of back timing, gentlemen.
Yeah, and well, I'm not going to argue, but if the car had been able to stay out another 5 laps, which I think it could have done, I reckon it could have got to the end with just one more pit stop. So we'll wait and see how that one unfolds. I think now they almost certainly have to make 2 by my reckoning. So we shall see. An hour and 1 hour and a half remaining right now.
A very quick splash then, presumably, required for the last, handful of 2 or 3 laps, maybe?
Indeed.
So that's almost banking on a caution happening in the last 90 minutes, because if the yellows come out, then that might well buy them the mileage required to get to the finish. It's possibly a dangerous game to play, but there are many, as Wayne Taylor mentions, the brain surgeons, in inverted commas, next to him, running all the various pieces of data on the laptops, working it all out. And the problem is you've not only got to sort out your own strategy, but also work out vaguely where everybody else is too.
Yeah.
Inside the final 90 minutes, it's the 58th running of the Rolex 24 here at Daytona International Speedway. Johnny Palmer, Jeremy Shaw, Diana Binks and Joe Bradley. We'll have a change around in the pits as well for the closing stages, with Shea Adam and Jamie Howe waiting in the wings. Meanwhile, GTLM, very tight indeed. The mid-engined Porsche 911 RSR 19, brand new car for 2020 for this championship. Can it win on its debut versus the BMW M8, which is coming towards the end of its programme? And the Team RLL machine, which the equivalent chassis, no longer in the World Endurance Championship, that was run by the German squad Team M-Tech, but clearly that BMW very, very strong again, and on course, well, needs to get ahead of a Porsche, but could back up its victory from last year's race. But this one would feel far more valuable, I'm sure, because of the curtailed affair 12 months ago.
Yeah, very much so. This would be a really, really big one, rather than just a really big one. So, but for Porsche, you watched the Porsche 911 RSR-19 make its debut in the World Endurance Championship towards the end of last year. It came away with the victory there, trying to do the same on the car's debut in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship just a few months later.
Yeah, quite some statement.
They've got a stout BMW in between them and that desire.
Certainly so, yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, Porsche looking for a top 2 finish, but just hanging on to the victory at the moment is going to be a tough task for Earl Bamber. 0.6 of a second the gap currently stands at. And we'll continue to be engrossed with that for another an hour and 27 minutes to go. One more quick update from the pit lane and Di.
Just as you come to near the 55, Mazda Team Yost car had come in for a stop. It was all 4 tyres and fuel, but no driver change. So quite clean stop, and the car has gone back out by the time you come to it.
And the Paul Miller Racing Lamborghini car 48 in from the lead of GTD. We're having the GTD lead sort of ebb and flow and flip-flop between the front runners as they choose to pit. And I suppose if we back time from the end of the race now, we can maybe see who's going to be where they need to be. And I'm sure the team strategists will be adjusting things to make it their car that leads GTD. Once again, we're seeing just fuel and tyres. This time on the 40 at Caldarelli, staying at the wheel.
Yeah, they're well versed in getting that Lamborghini turnaround really swiftly. So it's now Mirko Bortolotti who will take the GTD lead, because the WRT Speedstar Audi hasn't yet made its latest stop. Caldarelli and Marco Mappelli switching positions. I'm interested to know who's won the race, though, on pit road between those Lambos, considering they pitted about, it's 2 laps apart, I think it was.
Yeah, 4 laps, actually.
4 laps.
Time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun?
Yes, just a little bit.
So this will put Bortolotti in the lead of the race. And the number 16 car, that's not completely out of it either.
No,
the Porsche still running in 4th position, and this pit stops will put the number 54 car back on the lead lap, I think, in GTD, possibly even number 63 as well.
Right, now still trying to work out which order Caldarelli and Mappelli are in. Paul Miller Racing haven't yet gone through the next split, so I can't tell you that, but it was going to be tight because they were virtually neck and neck before Marco Mappelli pitted 4 laps ago. But it's definitely the Belgian squad that run the Audi R8 with a similar engine, the 5.2 litre V10, normally aspirated in the middle of that car, as the 911 has just come in and heads back out again. Diana Binks, was that a clean stop for them?
Very clean, quick stop for the 911.
Easy as that, fair enough, and out it goes. 22 seconds up in the air and gone again. All of these GT cars pitting now, though, will have to take one more stop, because GTLM machines, what's their stint length like? Again, about the 55-minute marker for a GTLM, Jeremy?
Yeah, 50 or so.
50 or so, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, one more stop, basically. Yep. We'll see them home. Yep.
I reckon the number 3 car came in with an hour 37 to go. I reckon, I would presume that they reckon they can get to the end from there with just one more pit stop. They've been kind of back timing that from quite a long time ago, and so I think, you know, the other guys are good. It'll be good to go with one more pit stop, certainly from here. And 9, 12, and the 24. You know, they probably won't want to wait out too much longer now, for exactly the reason that Wayne Taylor was talking about. 100% sure Wayne was telling us everything. He probably told us everything he knows. Yes. Hopefully, I'm not sure that the strategists might know more than that, but anyhow, we'll get back to that in a while. But the number 9, 12 car, number 24, if there were to be a caution period now, the pits would be closed, and that would enable the cars that have already made their final pit stops to get ahead of them. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the number 9, 12 and or 24 into the pit lane pretty soon.
There is a gap now between Andrea Caldarelli for Paul Miller and Marco Mappelli for GRT Magnus. So the Paul Miller car's got the advantage. That's what Caldarelli was trying to do during the last stint, but just found himself right behind a wall of GRT Magnus Huracan. But it's 13 seconds between the two now. So was that a short fill on the Paul Miller racing car to get it track position and maybe extend the gap? And then they'll refuel it with a full tank. Oh, slow Ferrari coming out of the bus stop is the 62 Risi Competizione car. That is showing 4th place on the side with James Collado at the wheel. 911's just come out in front of it, but it's touring its way out of the bus stop. So what happened into said corner? Was there It's a tyre. It's a rear right tyre that's gone bang in a big way down the back straight, and Collado just about hangs onto it into the chicane. It is shredding the tyre though, and I'm no doubt taking bits of Ferrari with it, and that's left an awfully big piece of bodywork. Or no, it's the inner lining of the wheel arch, I think, that's right in not quite in the middle of the track, but it's up against a safer barrier. So IMSA officials with a decision to make here, with a significant chunk of debris now on that back stretch. Yellow and red flags no doubt being displayed, the slippery surface / debris flag to warn people of that, but if it's not on the racing line, maybe it's safe to continue.
Yeah,
this could be the late caution that everybody wants, or
some people want, and
yeah.
some people don't.
Indeed.
And I'm still surprised we're not going to see the number 9, 12 or 24 car on the pit lane, which separated but just half a second as they came across the line that time. Where are they? They're headed, I think, up towards turn 6 perhaps now. Can't see that far away, but there certainly wasn't much to choose between them, but they did stay out on the racetrack. There goes number 9, 12 car onto the banking out of turn 6, yes.
Risi into the pit lane with a rear right tyre gone, so let's go to Joe Bradley for the update.
Yeah, it definitely, as you guys assessed, right rear absolutely on the bottom of the car, the underneath of the car, scraping along. He's done a great job getting the car back without that carcass completely coming away from the tyre and then flailing around. There's damage enough though underneath the wheel arch, and quite a bit of bodywork. If this was your road car, it'd be in the body shop for a few weeks, I think, to repair this. However, this isn't a road car, it's a race car, so we'll be quickly getting rid of, and we've seen this before, the strands of metal that form the carcass of the tyre becoming detached and then wrapping themselves around the suspension of these cars when we've had punctures, and that's what we've got right now on the 62. So it's a tricky job. You've got to absolutely cut. You've got to cut. It's steel bands that you've got to cut through, and right now we've got a massive amount of steel bands that are wrapped around the rear right suspension. Massive damage on the inside of that wheel arch. So it's a very difficult job to get these cars home when you've got a punctured tyre flailing. This 62 Risi Ferrari is going to be detained in this pit lane for a little bit longer than we thought.
And another Ferrari pitting just a couple of bays ahead of it is the 63 Scuderia Corsa example with the WeatherTech branding. Now, the GTLM battle just getting caught up a touch behind the number 11 Lamborghini from GRT Grasser, although its driver Stein Schottor's doing a good job in staying out of the way on the infield. Actually helped the Porsche more so, didn't it? Earl Bamber got through the traffic and Jesse Krohn had to wait.
He did, because when they came across the line, it was just 0.126 of a second between the Porsche and the BMW, dicing for the lead in GTLM. It's now, I'd say, 7 or 8 tenths of a second, so quite a bit longer. But what's interesting also about this battle for the lead in GTLM, they're catching the number 3 Corvette that's trying to stay on the lead lap. I can think that's probably the only reason why the number 9, 12 and 24 haven't yet made a pit stop. They want to put the Corvette a lap down, perhaps. I don't know, because I would have thought they're risking things here. If there is a full course caution, it's going to play not to the favour of the battling number 9, 12 and 24. They're coming down to the start finish, across the stripe. Again, that prodigious power of the BMW takes it right onto the tail of the Porsche. And the Porsche got a little bit of traffic to deal with through turn 1, but he's able to maintain his edge. They got a prototype car past the BMW as they head toward the International Horseshoe, and right ahead of both of them is the number 3 Corvette.
That's Kamui Kobayashi, the race leader, slotting his way through and past the BMW, now past the Porsche, goes the Japanese, slipping up the inside at the left-hand kink on the infield. A couple more cars to negotiate, and then he'll have a bit of cleared track ahead of him. What about the 62? Work still going on, Joe Bradley.
Well, we've got the right rear wheel onto the car. There's extensive damage at this point of the race. We can't really do anything about that, and it's a little bit more than the aesthetics. Lost a bit of the splitter off the rear, the bits of parts off the diffuser. We've got no doubt got an overheating engine. You know what? I think, from the body language of the car, no urgency. Driver undoing his belts. Driver getting out. James Collado getting out of the car. I'm not sure whether the day is done for the 62 Risi Ferrari and whether or not we're going to put this car away. I'd say we are. I'd say this was done.
That's a shame. They've got.
I can just read James Colado's gait as he wandered to the back of the car.
12 laps that car has in hand over the 25 BMW. It was delayed a long time ago, Joe.
James is taking his helmet off now. James, sterling job getting the car back. What's actually finished the car, though? What was the decision there to finish the car?
I think there's damage. Obviously, it's probably too much to carry on, but we also don't see any sense in carrying on. It's upsetting. It's quite negative, but you know, we're driving around flat out, risking everything, and we've got no chance to win on pace alone. So, you know, it's better just to call it a day. I think I'm actually quite happy just to get out of the car, and yeah, we just stood in the pit lane here.
We are, yeah. Remember where we are.
But yeah, so it's unfortunate for the team because we came from such a good Petit Le Mans, but they just didn't give us the performance we needed to be at the front this time. So c'est la vie. You know, next race, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I was about to say, James, you guys came into this a little bit deflated after that BOP was handed to you. I think last Thursday, you guys were a bit deflated by that.
Yeah, I think we pushed a little bit in the Raw. You know, we wanted to see what we kind of had, and that ultimately affected us going into this weekend. But I think fair play to the others. They got so much in the pocket, and you know, that's just part of the game. And we were flat out from pretty much yeah, as soon as it got dark, really. So we knew we didn't have a chance, and we were risking a lot of things, but that's it. That's the way racing goes.
Sorry to see you climb out to ejected, James Collado there. And, you know, I don't want to open a can of worms with regard to the BOP. But like James said there, guys, he said we maybe showed too much in the Raw. But that's not what balance of performance is for. Because if you don't show what your performance is, then how can we balance that? Well, that's called sandbagging, isn't it, if you don't do that?
No, that's a bit disingenuous, Joe, to be perfectly honest. IMSA officials are smarter than that. Yeah. Here's a pit stop, though, for the number 912 Porsche that pulls onto the pit lane.
It's onto the pit lane with Albamba's still behind the wheel. New tyres onto that car, refueling going on. And as you say, it's going to be down to the strategy now. There's not a moment to relax as they drop the car off the jacks. Still fuel going in, taking the windscreen, clearing the windscreen for the driver. In a few minutes, he'll be back out onto track with that 912 Porsche.
Fabulous noise as it launches back into the race. But I mean, we've had this discussion about balanced performance many times. Regardless of what teams are up to, the data.
No, forget the sandbagging. That's old news these days. There's much more data than is available. To have that of any effect whatsoever. No, the Ferrari had an advantage. They trimmed that advantage, and this way, you know, they haven't quite been able to overcome that. So that's the way things go. As I said earlier, a little while ago, the boot was on the other foot at the Petit Le Mans, where the Ferrari clearly had an edge. He wasn't complaining then, was he?
No, certainly not. And the thing is, you know, there are various settings, you know, notches. And you trim it down one notch and it can have a large impact. There's not a great deal the officials can do about that either, but if a car needs to be slowed, you move it back one little notch and this can be the result. But it'll have been noted, and loads of data again coming from almost a 24-hour run for the 62 car. And they have recently announced that they'll be at Sebring in March. I think they said they attend Sebring next.
Yes, I believe so. Which is tremendous. You're certainly looking excited about that, and you know the balance, the balance of performance or the specifications given to the car for Daytona are always a little bit different. It's a completely different sort of a racetrack, this one, and is treated as such by the technical team at IMSA. So whatever the specifications that are announced for Sebring don't really have any relation to what is in effect here. It's effectively they go back to what they had at Petit Le Mans that will be determining the information that is given to the teams prior to the next round at Sebring. Number 24 BMW did not pit last time around, and has actually stayed at one more lap this time around, so it's going to need a little bit less fuel than the number 9-12 at its next stop. Plus it's out there taking advantage of fresh tyres rather than putting on cold, fresh Michelins, which is just the case for the Porsche.
Quick question from Joe about the 9-12 as to whether that's on sequence or not. But I mean, it really depends now what sort of game the teams are playing, whether they intend to do a splash late on, or do they intend to back time and get a full stint in to the flag. So the early pit stop is effectively being done in the penultimate stop, should we say?
Yeah.
So you do your short run, one stint from the end.
Yeah, and the Corvette did it a couple of stints from the end. Not quite sure they're going to have quite enough to catch the leading trio at this stage. Things come down to the two Porsches. They're separated by 3 seconds after their pit stops. The number 24 car is staying out there. It's a bit of a gamble at this stage because if there is another full course caution, that will mean that they will come out behind the Porsche. So I would have thought they should get that car in fairly soon. I don't think there's any way it can make it on one less stop than the two Porsches. So we'll wait and see now how long the 24 BMW will stay out. Meanwhile, in LMP2, number 81 and the number 52 car. Is that the 52 or is that the 18? I think it's the 18 actually. Okay. So yes. The number 81 car still leads. Harrison Newey is at the wheel of that car, and he's got a gap of still just a little bit over a lap over the number 52 car.
It's about 3 minutes, actually.
Is it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a minute and 28 back to Elio Castroneves in the 9th place DPI, and it's about the same distance back then to the PR1 Matheson Motorsport car. So call it 3 minutes as a lead that Harrison Newey has, and that's very healthy indeed. With an hour
he was our
and 11
leader in
minutes to go.
GTD.
Leader in GTD is in the pit lane, and Joe Bradley watching the stop.
Yeah, the number 88, it's the WRT Speedstar Audi, comes in from the GTD lead. Now, it came in from the lead by dint of the other cars pitting, and it's completely the opposite sequence of pit stops, this car. And again, my brain's not working that well to see how this will pan out towards the checkered flag. But once again, just tyres and fuel for the 88. It's about done. The fueling takes an absolute age at this stage. So no driver change there for the 88. It's gone back out, and it'll not go out into the lead of GTD by my estimation, gentlemen.
No, we'll check on that in a second. Now, that's going to have to be either mighty fuel save to get through an hour and 10 minutes in a GTD. They're going to have to take a splash, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so, Johnny. So and that car's going to come out some way behind both the Lamborghinis. The Lamborghinis, having had that fabulous battle for a while ago. We heard about Andy Lally talking, well, an hour and a half or so ago, probably now, maybe longer than that, about how they'd changed their strategy, they'd changed things up, as he put it, to plan toward the end of the race. But since this last round of stops, number 48 cars come out with an advantage of about 11 seconds over the number 44. Again, they are going to need one more stop here. Number 44 car came in 4 laps before number 48 on this sequence, but the question is, have they kind of put an equal amount of fuel in for 2 stints to the end, or is there one stop where they're going to take on less fuel than the other car? So again, that's all only going to become apparent when we see the car onto pit lane next time around, or for its next stop, I should say.
Here's the order in GTD then. Andrea Caldarelli leads for Paul Miller Racing in the Lamborghini. Another Huracan second, Marco Mappelli. The gap is 11.6 seconds, and that's after, I'm sure, Caldarelli's car was short-filled to get in ahead of GRT Magnus machine. Mirko Bortolotti, I thought, had got back out behind Klaus Bachler, but no, that's showing up now as Bortolotti feeding back in third, with Klaus Bachler for Wright Motorsports still fourth in the 16 car. Joe Bradley, what about the leader in the GTLM?
Yeah, it's cost him time in the pit stop, and this is just what we were talking about, because as the car turned left to get onto its pit box, the number 18 in the LMP2 class pulled out almost, I'm not going to say almost hit it, because it didn't quite, but the reason why it didn't hit it is because the 24 car checked up and stopped itself. in so doing stalled, and it costed that time of just getting onto the pit box and cracking on with the pit stop. That car moves. It's got a very silent exhaust note in comparison to other cars, and you can pretty much hear the squeal of the tyres as he wheel spun away there. But the 24 now, that's their penultimate stop by my estimation.
Has to be.
Correct.
Has to be, because these cars can only tend to do about 50 minutes, the GTLMs, so it's going to have 17 minutes extra to have to come in for a splash.
And here is the Porsche coming past. That's the number 911 car. After the round of pit stops, the number 911 car, which came in half a dozen laps before the number 912, has leapfrogged ahead of the number 912 car. So we've got 911 now in second place. He's coming around turn 1. Where is the BMW?
It's out in front, I'm sure.
It is out in front, I think.
But cold tyres.
How far? Exactly.
Nothing at all. And the Porsche's alongside it. The Porsche's passed
Gone through. There you go.
Lead change again then. And Earl Bamber back. Sorry, Nick Tandy called as the GTLM leader. So that's the 911 sneaking through. Jesse Crone second, and Earl Bamber 5.3 seconds behind that.
Yeah.
But a big hold up.
That was it. That was the cost. That was potentially the race. It cost a lot of time coming into the pits for the number 24 car. Yeah.
So it had to check up. There was an LMP2 car leaving pit road, and in order to avoid that, hard onto the brakes, Jesse Crone stalling the car as a result, and it did leave on stickered tyres, brand new tyres that had been held back for this penultimate stint. But as you say, that could be the race right there. The 911 then getting ahead because Nick Tandy had nice, warm, up to temperature Michelin tyres, and Jesse Crone scrabbling for grip. There are no tyre warmers in this championship, and it takes a lap and a half really to get to full race speed.
That's right. The tyre warmers and the drivers, they've got to move that car around and build the heat into the tyres the old-fashioned way. I love that. I give me that any day. I think it's much more challenging for the drivers, and you know, that's what racing is all about in my book. There goes another pit stop for number 81. Harrison Newey. That will mean he is does he still have a lap advantage over number 52? Yes, I think he does.
Well, he had a
but not by much. I'm not quite sure where the other car is out on the racetrack between them. So that the strategy of the two Porsches is certainly interesting, as to the fact that the number 911 car has got ahead of the number 912. The number 911 at the final stop will need more fuel than the number 912. So that's certainly something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, out the front of the field, Kamui Kobayashi is continuing to run around at his 1 minute 35, 1 minute 36 is pretty comfortable. Handed lead of over half a minute now over the number 77 Mazda in second place. Really good run for the Mazda so far. Splitting the two Cadillacs with Loic Duval in third position. Similar margin, just less than half a minute back in third position. And then 4 laps back now is the number 6 Acura of Juan Pablo Montoya, car number 6.
So Harrison Newey out of the 81, Ben Hanley in, and that advantage is still, well, just a smidgen under 3 minutes. It's actually 2 minutes and 55. Oh, actually, no, hang on a minute, because yes, no, it's still actually come down to about 2 minutes now. So that's the difference between the pit stop for the 81 and the 52 machine, shaving a minute off the what was a 3 minute advantage. So Dragon Speed USA's white car with the blue dorsal fin and the stars along the body length stripe. That instantly recognisable Dragon Speed livery.
Ben Hanley back driving that car. Yeah, still it does have a 1 lap lead, I think, over the number 52 car. Still Ben Hanley, then he will bring that car home to the finish from here. Here's the gap between the second and third place cars in GTLM. The BMW came out of the pits in second place, but as it came across the line this time around, it was 4 or 6, but he actually lost a second and a half on that lap compared to the Nick Tandy BMW. 6.2 seconds the deficit the BMW has over the leading Porsche. The other Porsche is right behind in third position, and I would say it lost at least 5 seconds messing around in the pit lane trying to get into its pit box, don't you think, Johnny?
Yeah, possibly more. So
yeah, possibly more.
Nick Tandy leads by 6.9, and now Jesse Krohn has Earl Bamber all over the back of him. BMW's good out of turn 6. We've seen that all race long, so he's able to extend the gap, but that little Porsche occupying a much smaller footprint on the asphalt just seems that bit more manoeuvrable on the infield, despite the fact that actually the Porsche is the heavier car. 1280 kilos versus 1220 for the BMW. It was given 10 extra kilos post the roar as well as a late balance of performance adjustment. But the Porsche very slippery, and the BMW got loads of poke from the front engine, as is proving into the tri-oval. I think we're about to head into the part of the track where the Porsche is that little bit quicker. Meanwhile, Kamui Kobayashi serenely out front in the number 10, nursing this 35-second lead he has over Oliver Jarvis in the 77 Mazda DPI. And Loic Duval in the number 5 car in the JDC Miller run, Mustang sampling Cadillac, running in 3rd position. Back the same distance, actually, from Jarvis back to Duval as well. So a minute covering the top 3 DPI cars.
That's right. And behind Montoya, 3 laps behind him now is that Ailing Mazda, the number 55 car that's limping home, just doing the best they can. Last lap around for Ryan Hunter-Reay, 1:47, so it's now 10 seconds off the pace with that lack of boost pressure. On board with Mirko Bertolotti in the 3rd place Audi. He's just, how far back is he? Where is he coming across this stripe? Not yet, actually, so he's quite a long way behind the 2 Lamborghinis now. They've got 12 seconds between the Lamborghinis in 1st and 2nd position. Number 48 car for Paul Miller Racing has the advantage now over the GRT Magnus entry car number 44, and number 39, another 39 seconds back now is Mirko Bertolotti, and he's being closed upon quite rapidly by Klaus Bachler.
77. Sorry to interrupt, Jeremy. No. 77 is in, so we're going to throw straight to Shea Adam for the, well, what must be the penultimate stop for this DPI car.
Correct, and Oliver Jarvis staying aboard as of now, but the plan is to change the driver for the final stint. Ollie getting a new water bottle. They are giving him 4 new Michelin tires, so they did hold some back. A windshield tear-off. No point in leaving any of those on the car as it drives to the podium, hopefully. Just waiting on fuel. Engine revs. Ollie starts creeping forward, and there he goes. Good stop for Mazda Team Yost.
It's 107.9 FM here at the track at Daytona International Raceway, and you're listening to RS2 IMSA Radio across the US and around the world. We're live from trackside here at DIS. There are a mere 60 minutes still to go in the 58th running of the Rolex 24, and the final hour right here on RS2 IMSA Radio starts now. This is the point of the race, Jeremy Shaw, where everything becomes, fingers crossed, a little bit easier and clearer for us as strategy starts to just untangle a little bit. But no doubt about it, there are cars on very different strategies at the moment, some requiring a splash to get them to the finish, some leaving a full fuel fill as their final stop. So different lengths of pit stops required, and maybe 1 or 2 question marks as to whether cars can make the finish on their current fuel loads. And GTDs, pretty much all of them, have got to pit again, surely, with 59 minutes left on the clock. Comfortably, if you're running at true race pace, that everyone will be now, you're looking at sort of 55 minutes, really, for a GT Daytona car.
Yes, and as you suggest, Johnny Palmer, they will be taking on differing amounts of fuel at the final stops. And number 16 car will need just a lap's worth of fuel more than the number 44 car. Number 44 car will need 4 laps more fuel than number 48 car. The number 88, which is running in 3rd place, will need quite a lot less. It came in 2:25, 14 laps, so it's kind of half a stint difference between the 16 and the 88, but the 88 car is now 40 seconds off the lead. I don't think it's going to be that, well, it isn't going to be that much of a handicap for that car, so it's between the 2 Lamborghinis, like I say, 12 seconds between them last time around. There's certainly going to be a difference in the amount of fuel they will need to take on board at the final stop.
Can I offer you a fastest lap of the race within GTLM? Jesse Crone, 142.168. No other GTLM car has gone faster than that. And he's trying to slice down a 4.7 second gap between his BMW and the Nick Tandy 911 Porsche. We'll go down to Shea Adam to the pits and for this update, and then maybe hear a little bit more from Jamie Howe. But welcome, ladies, for the final hour of this year's Rolex 24.
Thanks, Johnny. Is your pulse as high as mine is right now? So it's pretty much through the roof.
Yes.
You mentioned that 88 WRT Speedstar Audi, Jeremy. It is definitely going to be out of the running because the driver, Mirko Bortolotti, has been aboard for more than 3.5 hours at this stage in the race. Well, there is a big rule in the IMSA rulebook. You may drive no more than 4 in any 6, which means that even if they needed to take on less fuel, they still have to do a driver change. And to be honest, I'm not entirely sure the team is aware of that.
I would imagine. I think these days they generally get an alert from race control as well. So I would certainly assume they're aware of that, and that'll be making a pit stop. Actually, it didn't make a pit stop that long ago, did it? Number 88 car. So it's going to need to come onto pit lane one more time, and they're going to have to make that fairly soon.
The 88. I remember the time specifically, 1 hour and 7 minutes left on the clock, and we said there's no way it can make it home from there. So maybe this is a deliberate short stint to get it to the 55-minute or 50-minute marker, and maybe they are fully aware, let's hope so, of Mirko
That's a good point. Very good point that Shea makes there, because if they're not aware, it is a major problem. Here comes number 10 car, our race leader, onto pit lane with 56 minutes remaining in this race.
Jamie Howe is there watching.
And Kamui Kobayashi will stay behind the wheel of the number 10 Konica Minolta Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac as they take on Michelin tires. They're pulling off one of their windscreen covers. I'm looking at it. They have 4 more remaining on there. They have numbered all of them. So when they make their very last pit stop, they can give him even another clean vision, quick and easy, still waiting on the fuel. He did get a fresh drink of water. I think he's going to be taking this car all the way to the checkered flag. Very quick pit stop.
Yeah, he is going to need one more stop before the end, though. He's about, 17 minutes shy of making that. So we're still waiting for number 5 car, the second place car, to come onto pit lane. And it is doing so right now as we speak.
Getting the message on our screen about the Risi Competizione Ferrari, which we kind of already knew anyway. Car 62 officially now retired. James,
is that only the third car that's actually officially retired there?
Well, Christina Nielsen's car was
true.
Out,
true.
And the 47 Jonathan Hoggard Lamborghini also out. So the 2 Astons, 2 Lamborghinis, the 74 Mercedes, Shea reminds me, and the 62 GT.
I'm not sure whether the Lamborghini, that 47 Lamborghini might have got going again, actually. Has it?
No, 74's on track, Shea now suddenly realises. Rather surprised there. The 5 car is in, though, from second place, and Jamie Howe's also watching this stop.
Very similar to that number 10 stop. They did take 4 Michelin tires. Loic Duval stayed behind the wheel of the car. They also passed him the fresh water bottle, let him have a sip of some water while he waited on those tires and the fuel. Quick and easy.
Yeah, 74, the Riley Mercedes running in 11th position, in actual fact, despite it running out of brakes with an electrical problem over at the Western Horseshoe. But well done to Riley Motorsports for curing that issue, which initially brought the car to a complete halt well short of the pit box, and 4 guys from Riley Motorsports were deployed to push it into position. And then on the out lap, or the lap after that, there was a moment down at the second of the U-bends on the infield. You're not sure about the 47, last to be driven by Jonathan Hoggard Precision Performance, Lambo?
No, I think you're right. I think that car is... I don't think we have seen that car since it ground to a halt just before turn 5 a couple of hours ago.
So that's the heart of racing Aston Martin, involved in a bizarre incident with the 47 Lamborghini, wasn't it, on the home straight. Ross Gunn's Aston Martin, which was involved in an incident with the number 3 Corvette at first, and then it came in for a stop, and on the way out on cool tyres, Ross Gunn, a very uncharacteristic mistake from him, clattering the wall on the way out of the pits. 2 Lamborghinis, Christina Nielsen's car, a dramatic fire, but thankfully Christina was able to get out of that machine and also turn off all the power and deploy the fire extinguisher. That car's retired, and the 47 machine as well. Plus now the 62 Risi Competizione Ferrari has retired from the race after it was really badly damaged with a right rear puncture. More from Jamie Howe in the pits, and then we'll hear from Jeremy.
Well, I just checked in with the number 88, that Audi R8 with Mirko Bortolani behind the wheel. Shane was talking about the drive time. I just asked the team who was going to take the car to the checkered flag. They said it was going to be Mirko.
Okay. You might want to have a quick word in their ear and remind them about the 4-hour rule in that case, assuming Shea has, unless Shea has already.
Well, would that be classed as outside assistance when the commentator's advising the teams?
That's fine. They can be told by anybody. Okay. I think they generally get a message from timing and scoring, though, to warn them of that sort of a of a potential problem.
They get an opportunity to draw back from the point of no return.
Yeah, just you might want to look at this, chaps. They won't tell him, hey, you've got a pit, but they might say...
but just here are the rules, and just a little nudge in that direction.
Yes.
Here's the 10 going through the right-hander at the International Horseshoe, and Kamui Kobayashi now up to 43 seconds as an advantage. Last time I checked, that was 35, so he's pulling away from Ollie Jarvis. Jarvis, though, comfortable in second position with a half-a minute increase. No, about the same, actually, as to when I last checked back to Loic Duval. So Jarvis, Duval, and now in the pits, Juan Pablo Montoya in his Team Penske prepared Acura. Also down pit road, the Turner Motorsport BMW from the GT Daytona category. And that's Bill Oberlin bringing that car in from 7th position. Watching the stoppage, Shay.
When you have Bill power, you do not take it away, and Bill Oberlin will be staying behind the wheel of this Turner Motorsport BMW until the end of the race. He's getting new Michelin tires, which will make him a very happy boy, and just waiting on the right rear tire change to be completed. There it goes. Engine fires back up, drops off the air jacks. Fuel still attached, so no time loss whatsoever during this pit stop. Very odd to see a Turner Motorsport BMW not in yellow. Even more odd to see it with an all black carbon hood. It's been running this way for most of the race, which means you can't see a lot of the dirt on the nose unless you're looking at it from a fairly straight on angle. Also has a white door, just noticed that too, with no labels. So this car has been through the wars, but Billy Oberlin going to take it to the finish.
And across the line goes the number 911 Porsche to complete its 757th lap. And right behind it now, flashing his lights, is Jesse Krohn in the number 24 BMW. He's made up that 5.7 second deficit as a result of the fact, as Johnny Palmer pointed out, he set the fastest lap of the race in GTLM. That BMW, having had that miscue in the pit lane coming into its pit stall, it costed a lot of ground, but it's now making that up out on the racetrack.
Yeah, his pace was always going to be set to stun,
yes,
possibly kill. We'll find out what he's got up his sleeve now, because he still needs to make the pass at some point. But Nick Tandy is going to have to drive a very wide RSR 19 indeed to keep the Rapid Fin behind him. And those 4 white headlights on the front of the BMW will be searing a hole in the back of Nick Tandy's Porsche very, very shortly indeed, just into the section of the track that the Beamer M8 really enjoys, and the gap visibly is coming down through Speedway turn 1 and 2, so that run off the 2 left-handers and onto the back straight, much more favourable for that BMW. Hard onto the brakes, those 2 go into the bus stop and out the other side.
Wow.
BMW's going to catch even further, isn't he? It's down to about 4 car lengths now. And this fantastic view that you and I have in the commentary box is 3 car lengths. Is it going to be 2 by Speedway turn 4? And can he get the draft on the Porsche? Here comes the GTLM lead, then they're absolutely together, and Jesse Krohn now trying to fan out to make it 2 abreast, right round the outside for the GTLM lead. 48 minutes to go, late on the brakes. Nick Tandy, though, has the crucial inside line, and for the time being can fend off the mighty Finn in the BMW. What a fight, Jeremy.
Fantastic. They're absolutely side by side. The BMW led across the start-finish line, but brilliant driving there by Nick Tandy to dive back down the inside into turn one way. This is an uphill battle that Nick Tandy has right here, because that BMW is stunningly quick on the straight. And on that last lap, Johnny Palmer, it carried really good speed through the bus stop as well, didn't it? That's generally one of the places where the Porsche is quicker. Well, it wasn't last time around, so the writing is on the wall here for Nick Tandy, but he's not going to give up, that's for sure.
Yeah, that BMW looking more like an i8, because it's absolutely electric coming out of the final or penultimate pit stop, these two. So the GTLM battle's going to rage on, and I'll keep my eye on that, but we're going to go down to Jamie Howe for another quick update. Don't want to miss too much action in the pits if we can help it too.
Well, it should be the final action on pit road for GT Daytona category. The number 48 just pitted from the lead. Andrea Calderati stayed behind the wheel of the car, and now entering pit lane is the number 44 Magnus GRT Lamborghini, and it looks like it will be 4 tires, 4 new Michelins, and fuel on board for Marco as well. I'll confirm that once he does actually make this pit stop, but these should be the final times coming down pit lane in this 24-hour race.
Now Jesse Krohn using the draft of the JDC Miller prototype that popped round on the right-hand side. There's also a GT Daytona car trying desperately not to get in the way, but Nick Tandy was briefly delayed behind that. Again, they're going to be 2 abreast through the tri-oval. The BMW trying to break as late as possible, but Tandy with the crucial inside line. Brilliant. Through the double apex. Oh, he's gone wide though, and this might be the opportunity for the BMW. They are neck and neck and completely door handle to door handle, and the black BMW will take the advantage into the international horseshoe, and that was Nick Tandy's maybe tyres crying enough, or just so late on the brakes, couldn't make the second bit at turn 1.
Brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. So yeah, I mean, that time it was the Porsche that led across the line. So the straight line speed of the advantage of the BMW told by the time they got down in the braking area for turn 1. But Nick Tandy, as you say, just tried to carry a little bit too much speed in there, and the BMW takes advantage. But there's still 46 minutes to go. They still are going to have to make one more pit stop. So this race is not over yet. And here comes the 912 to make that final stop.
So the 912 has already been to Porsche GT team, and Shea Adam was watching that.
Fuel tires and an awesome stop by the Porsche GT team crew. The number 912 still has Bamber in for the finale, but now the 911's coming in.
Yeah, 45 minutes to go, and that was a short stint by the number 912 car. It was in lap 43, so only 16 laps, so pretty much half a stint for the, bit more than that, for the Porsche. And the BMW stretching its legs now.
And let's just mop up the last few stops that Jamie's been watching as well, so that we're covering all the, well, potentially final stops. I know the 911's coming in as well. So actually, let's stay with Shea to watch Nick Tandy coming in from what was the lead of GTLM, Shea.
He almost blew it, Johnny, as he was coming in and hit the pit speed limiter, locked up the wheels. The car that cost him the momentum on the banking, longtime co-driver Patrick Pilet in the FAF Motorsport Porsche. So that'll be a discussion a little bit later on. Fuel and tires, and if you've got a Nick Tandy at Daytona, you leave your Nick Tandy behind the wheel. More fuel going into the 911 than went into the 912. So perhaps Nick is going to be running on a more rich fuel map than Bamber.
And let's head to Jamie Howe, because you've had all sorts of pit visitors too.
Yes, the number 9, that FAF Racing Porsche that led so much of the early stages of this race, and for what should be Patrick Pilet's final pit stop. And just before them, I mentioned that number 44 for Magnus Racing, the Lamborghini. They made what should be their final stop. Marco Mappelli stayed behind the wheel. They took 4 new Michelins, and then behind them, the number 88 with Mirko Bortolotti staying behind the wheel. The 88 Audi R8, they were also in to make their final call to pit lane.
Nick Tandy heading down, still restricted by the speed limiter then on this long pit entry road. The 44 Lamborghini that runs second in GT Daytona is 17 and a bit seconds off the back of Andrea Caldarelli. However,
that gap, surprisingly to me, extended itself during when they made those final stops. They came in separated by 12 seconds. I thought the number 44 car needed a bit less fuel. No, it actually needed more fuel, I beg your pardon, than number 48. So that explains why that gap has extended. It had 4 laps. It had 4 laps less fuel it needed 4 laps more fuel than did the 48 car
but
to get to the end of the race.
The thing I couldn't understand was that there was then, as you say, a 12-second gap when they were separated by cigarette paper before as they came in. The 24 BMW from the lead of GTLM is now in to respond to the 2 Porsches. So let's go down to cover that stop.
And they're telling Jesse Crone this will be a quick pit stop as they take on tires and just get them into their fuel window to be able to take this car all the way to the checkered flag. This crew worked tirelessly for 23 hours, hitting their marks, doing everything they can. That was a very fast pit stop for the number 24 BMW Team RLL.
Much more neat and tidy than the previous one.
Much quicker than the Porsche. Where is the Porsche? Where are the Porsches?
Looking over towards Speedway turns.
Coming through 3 and 4 right now. It's a long way behind.
Yeah, after a real charge from Jesse Crone, brand new fastest lap from the GTLM cars for the BMW, and that
just
136.
14 laps of fuel. 14 laps, that's stint for the BMW before it made a pit stop. It seemed like an awfully long stop for the 911 when it was stationary this time around, particularly because they did take on fuel, didn't they? Yeah, they did take on fuel, as Jamie Howe told us. But it seemed like a much... Do you have the pit stop times there?
They're not accurate enough, I've discovered. Yeah, they're about 5 seconds either way, so we can't read those, unfortunately.
So, as expected, the 2 Porsches are together on the racetrack, because one of the cars needed less fuel than the other. The number 912 needed less than 911, so they come out pretty much together on the racetrack, but they're a long way behind the BMW.
Yeah, and couldn't see a fluff from any of the team from Porsche GT in that final stop, but it did seem like a rather long fuel fill.
Yeah, it looked like a time fuel fill, so I'm sure they took on how much fuel they needed.
Yeah. Well, it'll all come out in the wash.
Just seemed like an age, didn't it?
41 minutes, it will have felt like an age for Nick Tandy, no doubt about it. And although he's back into second place, he's now got 5 seconds to try and make up on the BMW. And the BMW very recently setting the 142.168, which is much quicker than we've seen elsewhere in that category.
40 minutes remaining in this race, 808 laps completed by our race leader. That was the distance of the race 2 years ago, the new record set 2 years ago. We've equaled that now. We've still got 40 minutes remaining.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff. And what's the prediction? Let's have a look. 8:32 is the current working prediction. Oh, Porsche side by side, and the 912 just poking the nose up the inside of the 911. That was Earl Bamber, and Nick Tandy's gone wide again. So Tandy struggling for whatever reason, can't get the car turned in at turn 1, and now Earl Bamber has been released. Well, 912 looking slightly stronger of the 2 Porsches, I would wager, in the final 40-odd minutes. The 911, we reckon, has more fuel on board.
And there goes the BMW just out of sight through the kink. It's only about 4 seconds ahead of the 2 Porsches.
But I think Earl Bamber's got more of a chance of catching.
There goes the BMW out of the frame of the picture. Here come the 2 Porsches through turn 5.
Yeah, 3.4 seconds is the gap.
Wow.
But Bamber put in front, no, not put in front, that wasn't team orders, that was Tandy making a mistake and Bamber taking the invitation, the Kiwi, so he slots in front. There's a little bit of traffic that he can use as a large hole in the air, including the Lexus that they're about to catch from the GT Daytona class. So BMW on the back straight, Porsche's really not very far away, running 2nd and 3rd in the GTLM category.
And there officially is the new distance record, 809 laps completed by Kamui Kobayashi. The gap from 1st to 2nd, well, it's over 40 seconds now. There's really no battle there. 26 seconds between 2nd and 3rd. So our interest right now is on this battle for the lead in GTLM. And what a charge Earl Bamber is putting on here after having snuck past Nick Tandy. He's put a good 2nd between him and the GTD current as well.
A sorry sight is to see the Performance Tech Orica going behind the wall. Cameron Castle's brought that machine in. Performance Tech Motorsports Orica 07, but that's been pushed behind the wall and back to the garage. They're going to do well to get that car back into the race to see it, to get it to see the checkered flag. We may be down to a 4-car field in LMP2.
3.1 seconds now, the gap between Jesse Krohn in the number 24 BMW and Earl Bamber in the number 912 Porsche. Did Bamber lose a little bit of ground there? Because all of a sudden Nick Tandy's a good bit closer than he was last time. I guess when he got into the draft, there's only 6 tenths between those two.
2.9, a couple of tenths maybe lost between those sector points, but the Porsche's working together really. Now at the pit stop for the 24, and this was the last stop, I'm sure, for the number 20, i.e. the penultimate, no, the last stop for the BMW to see it to the finish.
Stick of tyres.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't even look like scrubs. They look like absolutely
very shiny
tyres,
indeed, don't they? Yeah. And the Porsches, a moment or two ago, Earl Bamber poking his nose up the inside of Nick Tandy into the tri-oval. Tandy had to defend that, and again, too late on the brakes, ran out wide, and that's what gave Earl Bamber the position.
Earl
so
would be pumping his fist, and Nick would be going, dang it.
Yeah, but they were really close to contact, and you only got to remember back a few years to when the two 911s tangled in the night on the infield, took each other out effectively, and that was a rather embarrassing moment for Porsche. It shows, doesn't it, how eager each of these cars are to win the GTLM category. No team orders within the Porsche GT team.
3.4 seconds the gap this time as they come across the line. 24 to 9:11, 36 minutes remaining. Lap times last time around 1 minute 42.8 for Jesse Krohn. His fastest lap of the race at 1:42.1. Earl Bamber's lap that time at 1:43.1 against a 42.1. And Nick Tandy 42.8. So Nick Tandy was about 3 tenths quicker last time around. I think it's been a bit of a mistake, slight mistake on that last lap by Earl Bamber at turn 1. Nick Tandy hasn't given up, has he?
Certainly not. We are expecting the Kamui Kobayashi-driven Konica Minolta Cadillac in at the end of this lap. At least the team are making movements down there.
That'll be about right. 36 minutes to go in this race. Yeah, here it comes right now, ducking onto the pit lane.
Down pit road it goes, and it's heading for Jamie Howe, who's going to watch this final stop of the race for the race leader. So, the tamed Cadillac engine, which will fire into life just as soon as all the work is done. But this infuriatingly slow, I'm sure, for the Japanese driver. Let's go down to Jamie to watch the stop.
And Kamui Kobayashi will take this car all the way to the checkered flag. He said earlier this week that he, as well as all of his co-drivers and really the entire organization, were taking a philosophical approach to just enjoy every moment. They wanted to enjoy the practice sessions, get through qualifying, hit all of their marks, go about their plan, and really he just wanted to do this to have a good time. I'd imagine that's exactly what it feels like behind the wheel as they hit their marks perfectly, perform and execute as they plan to do on the final pit stop. All high fives around the number 10 Konica Minolta.
Yeah, their job, fingers crossed, is done now, and they can just enjoy watching this car being run to the finish.
That's exactly right, Johnny. And Kamui being very conservative, I think, through the pit lane exit there. Make sure there's no speeding in the pit lane, nothing like that. For him, he goes, accelerates now back out onto the racetrack. Job done by the pit crew at Konica Minolta Cadillac Racing. Now he's got a LMP2 car. He's just got he'll just let that P2 car go through, most likely.
Yeah.
And then pass him when he gets back onto the banking.
So Ollie Jarvis close enough to actually take the race lead for a short spell in 77 Mazda Team Joest DPI. Kobayashi slotting into second. Loic Duval is also in pit road now in the number 5 car for that caddy's final stop. And Juan Pablo Montoya came in the Acura not too long ago, but that, for my money, means that he's going to have to stop again, the number 6 car. Matthias Leist in the JDC Miller car, also down pit road now for the 85's final visit to pit lane. That will see it filled with fuel and be good to the finish. As the number 10 car now, it's getting more and more up to speed. Little bit of GT Daytona traffic to negotiate, though, heading out, and big puff of dirt being thrown into the face of Kamui Kobayashi there from the number 11 Lamborghini. Car 11 is sadly for Richard Highstand, down in 14th position in GTD. Not quite the last of our runners, though. Marcel Fessler still circulating in the number 4 Corvette C8R. That car labelled as 36th. And
yeah, how do you spell resilience?
I know.
I mean, gosh,
Well,
wasn't it 8 hours or more in the pits for the number 4 car?
7 hours and 50 minutes, I seem to remember. Yeah.
Wow.
For that housing problem, cramped housing.
Even Doug Feehan thought they'd park that car, the Corvette Racing program manager, but oh no, the team, the guys on the number 4 car had other ideas. We want to get that car back out there, learn some more about it, and the car's certainly running, I think, reasonably well. What sort of lap times has it been turning lately for?
It's actually right in front of the race, a second place car now, but will evolve to be the race leader. With Kamui Kobayashi properly back up to speed now. Mazda leading currently, 77, Ollie Jarvis. Then the Japanese in second, and the rejoining Loic Duval in third position in the number 5 Mustang Sampling Racing sponsored car. And expecting Ollie Jarvis into pit road this lap. Indeed, that's the car peeling off now out of Speedway Turn 4 for its final stop. And the 77 pulls into its pit bay. Nice and easily done, because it's the first one in the lane, and Shea Adams watching.
This is an honour that they earned by scoring the pole position at the Roar before the 24. The driver who did that time was Olivier Pla, who did a faster time than Oliver Jarvis. So when Ollie went out for qualifying on Thursday, which seems like forever ago now, he knew he had one job to do, which was to get the pole again. Did not better his record lap time, but now has the opportunity to go out and potentially win this race for Mazda team. A big ask. 27 seconds worth of fuel came into that car, and Oliver Jarvis has been left behind the wheel.
Just trying to desperately get some tyre temperature up even on pit road, with a flick to the left erratically of the front wheels, and then to the right as well. That's the reason why it's just squirming very slightly as he tries to generate the Michelin tyre temperature. It'll take a good few corners. I like the pit lane light sequence on the front of that Mazda. It's been doing it Royal Race long, of course. Gentle movement from left to right in order to add that extra bit of warning for those working in the pit lane, including Shea Adam and Jamie Howe. On top of all the stops, as predicted, Juan Pablo Montoya did need to come in one more time, so that's slightly less of a fuel fill to get it through the final 30-odd minutes. Similar amount of fuel going into the 77, but what it does do, of course, now that Jarvis has made his final stop, puts Kamui Kobayashi back to the lead. This is lap number 8:14, and still the predicted distance being 8:31, which once again, for the second time in 3 years, blows the absolute distance record of the Rolex 24 out of the water. It was 8:08, we're now at 8:13, and expected to go for a further 17 odd laps. Ollie Jarvis slotting back into the sequence then, 50 odd seconds behind. Loic Duval still got about 30 seconds to try and make up on the Mazda, but can't see that being done somehow. And the message to Kamui Kobayashi from Konica Minolta Cadillac DPI: you have no pressure, so just take it easy. Not even a push without risk, just ease it home now. 50 seconds to the good. Ooh, but flicking from one side of the track to the other to dodge around the Riley Motorsports Mercedes, almost dropping the front right tyre on the grass there as he did so. But that again is the brilliant behavioural technique of Kamui Kobayashi, but also the car as well. It can change direction at will and slice its way through GT Daytona traffic. That Acura car number 6 has been working incredibly hard. Looked resplendent at the start of the race, but after a hard old night, the nose splattered with goodness knows what there, and that's the sort of thing you immediately seal into the wrap at the end of the race to show how hard the car has worked. Rotating through all three of its drivers. So Montoya currently at the wheel. Simon Pagenaud and Dane Cameron, though, doing some very impressive stints over the night as well, but they've been struggling with car setup, car balance. Really, after the first few hours, we'd noticed it was porpoising very slightly, the Acura, in the earlier sessions this week.
Where's the number 81 car? Excuse me.
It's all right. It's in the pits, apparently.
Oh, yeah, I can't see it.
So it's on its way again, just heading into the International Horseshoe now.
Fine.
Ben Hanley.
Fine. Because the number 52 car now is I think back on the. Is it back on the lead lap?
Fuel and tyres, by the way, for Ben Hanley.
No, maybe it's still a lap behind. Okay, fine. Just over a lap behind.
Yeah, Gabby Aubry really pushing hard in the PR1 Matheson Motorsport car, but looking like a second place is the best that they can muster. Elio Castroneves now into pit road for his final stop. This is the car that was really badly damaged after contact with Harry Tinknell. It's going to be fuel only for Castroneves, though. No need to take tyres. And that car, 8th place in DPI, so still on course for 23 points. And he's worked hard to get it, well, together with the DPIs on the timing screen. But the problem is it's 10 laps down to the next car in DPI, which is Felipe Nasser.
That's right. So it's been a kind of really difficult, long day today for that number 7 team. They know they've got really not much chance to make up any ground in the overall any more championship points, but they do have to kind of keep on going just in case any of the other cars should strike any problems. But you know, it's awfully difficult to keep the motivation going when you're not really in with a shout of anything other than hoping for others to break down. There's the number 10 car putting another lap on the number 24 BMW. Jesse Krohn has increased his gap now over the Porsches, out to 6 seconds now. Number 24 over the number 912, and I'm not sure Nick Tandy kind of he's given up the ghost, but he's slipped back just a little bit, not quite on the tail of Alabama as he was a little while ago. New Rolling GTD, Andrea Caldarelli in number 48, Paul Miller Racing Lamborghini. He leads by just under 19 seconds over Marco Merpelli in the GRT Grassa Lamborghini. Marco Merpelli is about better part of half a minute ahead of his fellow Italian Mirko Bertolotti in car 88. That's the WRT Speedstar Audi Sport.
Yeah, and another 5.2 litre V10 powered car. So that design of engine doing very nicely, whether it be in a Lamborghini or an Audi, locking out the top 3 positions. The Porsches come next in GT Daytona, with Klaus Bachler for Wright Motorsports and Jeroen Bleekemolen in the Black Swan car, which was rebuilt from a completely new chassis after one of the early sessions this week. So 54 Black Swan Racing on course for a top 5. That would have seemed very, very unlikely if you'd spoken to him at the end of the session that Trenton Estep was involved in a really bad-looking crash. Delighted to see that Trenton stepped away from the incident, but it meant that the car was too badly damaged to continue, and they had to source a new chassis from Wright Motorsports.
Tremendous work by these drivers to repay all the work that was done by that Black Swan Racing team in the overnight hours of Thursday to Friday. They had to take the rule that you are allowed to use a different car, but you have to use the same engine and transmission from the original car. So they had to transfer that, take that out of the wreck car, put it in the Wright Motorsports car. As we heard from several of the drivers, particularly Jeroen Bleekemolen earlier, the steering wheel set up on the number 954 car now, the new car, so to speak, is a bit different to the systems that were on their car with which they were more familiar, so they had to kind of get used to that. But hey, it's not as if Jeroen Bleekemolen hasn't driven a few different cars with different configurations before, is it?
No, it'd give him half a lap and he's probably adjusted to the new one, frankly. Yeah, it lends his hand to all sorts of different machinery. We've seen him in prototypes before. Saw him in the Ford GT in GTE spec privateer hands last year at Le Mans. They thought they'd won it, but post-race tech did for them, quite rightly, under the regulations. But Jeroen Bleekemolen, yes, will lend his hand to pretty much everything within motorsport. Loves his car racing at every level. 23.5 minutes still to go. Right and left, and now into the international horseshoe for Kamui Kobayashi. 52 seconds now, the advantage. So he's been told there's no pressure, actually eking out the gap to Ollie Jarvis. I think he's found about 4 seconds now.
Yeah, and I think for Jarvis, you know, he knows that he's pretty comfortable. He's got still 20.5 seconds over number 5 car. That gap's come down somewhat, but you know, with what we'll have about maybe 12 laps to go, 13 laps to go. So as long as he can lose no more than 1.5 seconds a lap to the number 5 car that's running in 3rd position, that'll be comfortable. So Oliver Jarvis at this stage just making sure everything is hunky-dory, bring that car home, don't overstress it. 2nd place isn't what they wanted, isn't what they hoped for, having won the pole position for the 2nd year in a row. But I tell you what, it's a heck of a lot better than last year when both Mazdas were out in the early stages of the race. In fact, you know, pretty much all of these drivers in this car looking for their first ever Daytona finish, in actual fact.
Yes, and you know, that's #1 target, get to the end, and then fingers crossed you're somewhere near the top 5, even better than that, a podium, and then after that the race win. But it's incremental steps for Mazda, no doubt about it. All this work on the reliability, you know, has proven itself.
Yeah, for Tristan Nunez, this is his 8th Rolex 24 at Daytona. Don't think he's finished one of them.
Really?
No.
Shay says you're correct, Jeremy. Yeah. According to her statistics too.
And
so
for Oliver Jarvis and Olivier Pla, 4 races previously for Oliver Jarvis, 6 for Ollie Pla, and the best finish out of those 2 must have between them was an 8th.
Yeah. Yeah, this is big steps in terms of progress for Mazda Team Joest. 2 radically different paint scheme. Well, one we were used to, the 55 and the 77 in the all-white livery. Now, just around the outside of the Riley Motorsports Mercedes. A miracle that that car is still running after it ended up in the tyre wall many hours ago at the Western Horseshoe. The 55 Mazda, meanwhile, in the deep maroon, heading into the right-hander at the first hairpin bend on the infield, just exiting now, in fact.
Game on again, by the way, between the Porsches for 2nd and 3rd in GTLM. They're still slipping back from Jesse Krohn, who's extended the lead in the BMW out to almost 8 seconds now. But the 2 Porsches tied together wherever they are on the racetrack. Out of our booth.
Speedway turn 1,
are they?
I think. And now to 2, yeah.
Yeah, so there's maybe 10 car lengths between them as they head on down the back straight. Bit of traffic ahead. Nick Tandy, having slipped a second or so behind after a couple of slips, is now honing in again on Earl Bamber, so he's going to put the Kiwi under as much pressure as he possibly can. I don't think there's any team orders amongst these 2 other than
get it to the finish.
Get it to finish, don't hit each other.
Don't hit each other. Well, yeah.
They come awfully close a couple of times, didn't they?
I'm not sure I got the memo. Not that there was contact, but Nick Tandy, more than a glance in the mirrors, wondering what on earth the Kiwi was up to. But I like to see that within a team. Of course, some very friendly rivalry between the mechanics on 911 and 912. And if the Nick Tandy car can finish ahead, then there'll be high fives all around down at 911. The real problem for Porsche, though, is that the gap's opening up to the GTLM leader, which is the BMW. Will Tandy think about slipping through here? Almost side by side. Tandy is going to get the inside line, but the 912, oh, don't hit each other. We've already said they did. There was a love tap there between the 2 of them, and 912 Earl Bamber trying to fend off Nick Tandy. The 912 had the inside line into the King, but I think they just scratched wheel arches there. So that's all right, as long as it doesn't get more brutal than that.
Yeah, I think there was about a Porsche width between the 2 of them, wasn't it, on the edge of the racetrack there as they headed out of the International Horseshoe.
Maybe Nick Tandy just testing the water to see whether he can get ahead. He'd much more prefer a 2nd place finish than the 3rd, where he currently sits. And I bet Fred McAveeky and Matt Campbell just cannot look at the screens right now. And likewise, Earl Bamber's teammates, Mathieu Jaminet and Laurent Van Toor, much more comfortable for drivers to be in cars and in control. They don't like being on the Pratt perch and having to watch all this unfold as a spectator. Out of the bus stop and into Speedway turn 3, the two Porsches still together. And again, that scrap into the first of the horseshoes has just lost them a couple more tenths to Jesse Crone, who's just scampering away in the number 24 BMW, the black M8 that leads that category. Tonio Garcia in the number 3 Corvette is in 4th position. He's over a minute behind these two Porsches, so they can afford to fight one another a little bit if they wish. Maybe they've realised the BMW is not for catching, and now it is just a straight fight for second and third between the two.
Yeah, no question. And just behind him on the racetrack, not sure, is he catching or have they just passed the number 4 Corvette, which is still out on the track? So lap time last time around for the Corvette was a 1:45. So, okay, maybe they just passed the Corvette. I didn't see it.
Was that the Fessler one, the silver car? Okay, yeah.
It's right behind the two Porsches going around the horseshoe there.
So it is. And the yellow Corvette, as I say, negotiating the same lap as the Porsches, but what's that, 71 seconds behind them. Back up onto the 31-degree banking go Bamber and Tandy. 5th position in GTLM with the demise of the 62 Ferrari is Colton Herta in the other BMW. So both of the BMW Team RLL prepared cars will be on 4 points, 1st and 5th positions currently.
And that was the car that had a problem a long time ago, but they've kept plugging away, and it's going to be, they're going to finish next in line after the 4 GTLM class leaders are all on the lead lap. But as you say, Johnny Palmer, 14 laps behind them. I forget what that problem was, but it certainly put them out of contention. They too have just been battling away and running as long as they can. And they've, a couple of laps ago, how long ago? No, actually quite a while ago now, have overtaken the tally of laps that was already completed by the Risi Ferrari before they threw in the towel about an hour ago.
Don't forget, folks, as always, we'll have a post-race tech show, the Michelin post-race tech at the end of our race broadcast, and we welcome your questions and queries at this point, whether they be related to the opener for the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship or indeed to the future of sports car racing, not only in North America but also worldwide, with the announcement on Friday of convergence between IMSA, the ACO, and the FIA, the new category LMDH. More details to come about that at Sebring, but certainly plenty for us to chew through during Michelin post-race tech. So do fire your tweets in our direction at IMSA Radio with the hashtag MichelinPRT. So Michelin PRT is the hashtag at IMSA Radio. And you're tuned to RS2 IMSA Radio across the USA and around the world via the World Wide Web. We're live trackside at the Daytona International Speedway. 15 minutes remain on the clock. And GTLM, with every turn of the wheel for Jesse Crone, becoming more and more certain as a victory for BMW. Likewise for the Konica Minolta Wayne Taylor Racing prepared Cadillac DPI, Kamui Kobayashi, the car he shares with Renger van der Zande, Ryan Briscoe and Scott Dixon. All 4 drivers been brilliant throughout the duration of this event, and they've had their various trials and tribulations, not least, well, a big old penalty that Ryan Briscoe had to soak up for running a red light at the end of the pit lane. And there was also a penalty earlier on as well when Kamui Kobayashi went too fast in the pit lane and had to do a drive-through.
That was the other one.
Yeah, so the 10 has had its little hurdles along the way, but seemingly been able to come back from each of those. Andrea Caldarelli leading by 18.6 seconds from Marco Mappelli. The 88 car of Mirko Bortolotti still running there in 3rd position, but that car hasn't made its final stop. We worked out that that car would need to have a splash at some point, and it has done. So Bortolotti in and back out again, and looking good there for 3rd position, a cushion of best part of 20 seconds over Klaus Bachler.
Yeah, what a performance has been there for the two Lamborghini teams there for Paul Miller Racing. Champions in this series 2 years ago. Madison Snow sat out last year because the change in driver ratings. He remained a silver on the FIA rankings, but not on the IMSA rankings, and that precluded him from racing last year because you need at least one silver or gold driver in each of the cars for a full season. Brian Sellers is already a gold-rated driver, but this year IMSA has relented. They've given Madison Snow back his silver rating, and he's able to join Brian Sellers for the full championship, and looking to get a victory here. Both of those two have been on the podium here before in a Rolex 24. A second for Brian Sellers, a third for Madison Snow. They would love to get onto the top step, and they've got 12 minutes remaining.
54, nearly 55 seconds. Kobayashi leads Ollie Jarvis. 21.8 now, back to Loic Duval. So Duval has nibbled away at that gap. He's going to run out of time, sadly, for the number 5 car, and that's probably Jarvis starting to drive within himself now to make sure that the Mazda gets to the race finish. Not going to catch the 10, so just ease back and take zero risk now to make sure the Mazda gets to the end, and crucially in second position. 8:25 laps now completed. Actually, the prediction's gone out a further lap, so 8:32 now. 7 laps or so to go. And Ben Hanley in the LMP2 slot. Oh, just had a pit stop for Gabby Aubry, I noticed. So the 52 car coming in to take a final fill of fuel. Not much required. And the Frenchman, 21 years old, staying at the wheel of the PR1 Matheson Motorsport car. 9 laps in hand over Nicolas Minassian in the Era Motorsports Oreca. So the order's going to stay the same. John Ferrano is in the number 8 Tower Motorsport by Starworks LMP2. All 4 cars still together on the timing screen. The one we've lost is Cameron Castles, that went behind the wall, I think, for a final time in the 38, and that's got to be 30 minutes or so ago. But otherwise, the 4 in LMP2 run 9th overall, down to 12th, ahead of 5 GTLM cars. The BMW of Jesse Krohn, the 2 Porsches, Bamba from Tandy. Tonio Garcia makes it a 3rd different manufacturer in the top 4. And the sister car to the race leader in GTLM is Colton Herta in the white BMW. And we're talking about the problems for that car. Well, first of all, they couldn't get a right front wheel off, and the wheel gun man had to try several attempts to get it off. I think it ended up being something like a 3-minute pit stop, when it's often much more quicker than that. And then there was a far bigger problem which took it behind the wall. I forget the exact details of that, but it put the 25 car basically out of contention. And Team RLL instead put all their eggs in the 24 basket, but it's proven to be, in the end, a very strong car indeed. And 11.5 seconds now it has as an advantage over the 2 Porsches. The Michelin post-race tech show follows our race coverage. Don't forget to get involved if you have questions and queries, or just a discussion strand that you'd like to pitch in, at Michelin post-race tech on Twitter, and make sure you address the tweet to @IMSA Radio. Let's go down to Shay Adam for something else to add to the conversation.
Well, you mentioned the tenseness, or excuse me, you mentioned the fact that BMW put all of their eggs into the 24 basket fairly early on. There is a complete tenseness down here at the Team RLL pit stand because they really want one of their cars to win. Down at the other end of pit lane, where Porsche GT is stationed, there's tenseness from a different kind of perspective, because even though they're a team and there are 2 team cars currently occupying 2 podium positions, they still haven't decided who's going to be on which step.
No, and that battle rages on. Obviously, it's not all guns blazing as it might have been between BMW and Porsche. A relatively conservative fight, but I don't know, Bamba stuck his nose up the inside of Tandy in the tri-oval, and then there was the side-by-side moment out of the International Horseshoe as well, where if there wasn't contact, it came very, very close. We've seen them side by side. Are they just settling down somewhat now? 9.12 ahead of 9.11, and the gap between them is a second.
Yeah, the leading 3 cars in GTLM, the only guys who have a Rolex so far, Nick Tandy has one, and Augusto Farfus in the BMW crew, he won last season, so he's looking for his second, but for everybody else, it'll be a first Rolex watch.
Just going to correct something that was mentioned a little bit earlier on about Ollie Jarvis having never won this race before, because back in 2013 there was a class victory, I'm being told, in an Audi for Alex
true.
Racing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I was just good point, there was. But overall finishes,
yes,
the Besties managers are 9th.
Yes. But the Jarvis family
thank you very
started making that clear on Twitter to various people, and we should correct that, quite rightly so.
Absolutely so.
And Ollie Jarvis, pole position this year, pole position last year as well, so has a good record round here in terms of single lap speed, and also has a Rolex. He was actually wearing the Rolex when he qualified the car. I beg your pardon, yes, that was a Sebring Rolex, which was even cooler, as Shay mentions in my ears. The only Rolex ever made for a Sebring 12-hour victory. So wearing that on his left wrist. Sure, it cost him a couple of hundredths carrying that around with him.
Extra weight.
Just a little bit of extra weight, yeah. Success ballast. 6 minutes and 45 seconds to go, and well, the general trend is known now, but you still got to tick off the laps. 8.28 completed by Konica Minolta Cadillac's Wayne Taylor Racing car, the number 10. 4 to go, it looks like. So we should just about get to 832, which is way above the 808 set 2 years ago. On that occasion, that was the distance record. Well, we smacked it out of the park once again in 2020. Expected a fast race with no rain predicted. We've had no precipitation. We've had the odd caution along the way. 6 of them in total, which account for about an hour and 45 minutes.
3 of which came in very quick succession this morning, around about, what, 8 o'clock or so, with 8, 9 o'clock, somewhere around about there.
Yeah. About 10 to 8, I think was the first one, and then within about an hour and a half, we'd had 3.
Yeah.
So, but that was really against the grain, considering that lengthy run of, because we've also broken the maximum amount of green flag running ever at this race at 7 hours and 48 minutes, and that was counted in laps as well. 280. 7 hours and 48 minutes, 280 laps.
And of course, they didn't used to have full course cautions here, but since those records began, yes, pretty remarkable. It's certainly been a fantastic race. But we talked about that, didn't we, right at the very beginning of the broadcast, the fact that there's only 38 cars this year. It's the smallest field in the history of this race, but has this lacked anything from your perspective, Johnny Palmer?
No,
quite.
Not at all.
And as we said, it lessens the opportunity for guys to run into each other. There's a few cars on a racetrack, and that's the way it's proved. I think it's just been an absolutely gripping motor race from start to finish.
Yeah. And
we're inside the final 5 minutes now.
I don't think 38 cars in isolation this year was ever a worry. It was just whether it got fewer next year and then fewer again.
Yeah.
But the announcement about convergence, I think, is going to arrest the slide. And I'd love to see a few more GTLM cars, of course, because with the Ford programme coming to the end, but thankfully still in this championship we've got the BMWs. They were lost from the World Endurance Championship at the end of last season, so the middle portion of 2019, and the WEC has taken that quite hard because there's now only 3 manufacturers included in that, being Ferrari, AF Corsa, Aston Martin with their AMR Vantages, and the Porsches, the new Porsches, so 6-car field in the equivalent of GTLM in the WEC. 7 cars here this year, 5 of them still locked together on the timing screen. The 62 was the big news and retirement a couple of hours ago, and it was a rear right puncture that finally finished that 62 Ferrari off.
Nervous moments here for Paul Miller as he watches his car come towards it and go across the line one more time. 3.5 minutes remaining. Number 48 car has a lead. We're waiting for the number 44 car to come across the line in second position. It's coming up towards the line now, so the gap has grown to 22 seconds now between the top two cars in GTD. So it'll be another, two, might have to do 3 more laps for car number 48 to get to the end.
Yeah, the Kamui Kobayashi Cadillac is in the final sector, and I'm looking out for the white flag this time around because we're working lap 8.31. My prediction reads 8.32. Looking down to the starters rostrum there, I reckon there is a flag in hand. Looking out for the number 10 car. It goes underneath, so we're not going to see the white flag this time around.
And we won't see it next time either. There'll be 2 more to go then for Kamui Kobayashi.
So my prediction well out. Apologies for that. Kamui Kobayashi.
That'll be right. 8.32, isn't that what you were saying?
8.30. Yeah, but we've just ticked off 8.31, have we not? So it's going to be 8.32, 8.33. Taking the distance record out further. And now the advantage is over a minute back to Oliver Jarvis. You can get involved with Michelin post-race tech when we finish this race, and of course we'll hear from all the class winners as well. Some reaction from all 4 teams, looking like Konica Minolta for victory in DPI. Dragon Speed going so well in LMP2. BMW now have a 13-second advantage. BMW Team RLL with their M8 and Jesse Krohn finishing off the stint. And a nervous-looking Paul Miller, yes, but they have got almost a 25-second advantage for Andrea Caldarelli in the Lamborghini Huracan, back to the blue number 44 of Marco Mappelli. 90 seconds left on the clock. We are now inside a lap time, so it'll be white flag this time around. And yeah, the white flag just underneath the starters rostrum right now, in hand though, and about to be displayed to Kamui Kobayashi, who comes through Speedway Turn 4 with some traffic, but it's white flag being shown now as Kamui Kobayashi goes across the stripe. He had the 57 Acura to negotiate. No problems there, though. I'm sure he's encountered a GTD car many times into turn number 1. Got one of those dream messages from those on the Pratt Perch at Wayne Taylor Racing not so long ago, which was there was no fuel marker to hit either. You can use as much fuel as you want, so no wonder the gap's being opened up back to Oliver Jarvis. It stood at 48 seconds in the early part of this current stint, stretched out to 52. It's now 62 seconds for Kamui Kobayashi, showing no signs of letting up. What about the 2 Porsches in GTLM? There's still a second, just over a second between them, so 9.12 looking very likely that it will finish ahead of 9.11. Actually, the gap's even larger than that now, 4 seconds the difference between Bamba and Tandy, so they have settled into an order. Tonio Garcia, a minute and 20 seconds back. The Corvette, the brand new C8R, is going to miss out on a podium during its first outing. The Porsches are brand new to this championship as well. They'll leave Daytona with a double podium, but they're going to miss out on the win. But Wayne Taylor Racing in the number 10 car, it's a very different lineup from last year. Well, not very different. A couple of drivers the same, but they took victory after that race was red flagged early. It was a horrendous race, really, with the rainfall in 2019. This one has run dry throughout and very few cautions indeed. It's a distance record and it's a victory again for the 10 team. Wayne Taylor leans back on his chair. He can't believe what's just happened. GTLM victors will be the BMW squad and the Team RLL with their M8 GTE. Congratulations to Jesse Krohn, who's been at the wheel of that car for a long time, but also we shouldn't forget about Chaz Mostert, Augusto Farfus and John Edwards. So that's 2 of the class winners seen across the line. Still waiting for the second place car of Ollie Jarvis to appear as well. GTD, Lamborghini Huracan, from the second of the Lamborghini Huracans, and locked into third position across the line goes the Audi. Dragon speed, though, up on the high banks, coming through speedway turns 3 and 4 with the checker in sight, and the white car with the blue body stripe and those stars down it, looking rather battered and dog-eared, but the 81 car takes victory now with Ben Hanley at the wheel. And we must also congratulate Henrik Hedman, Colin Brown and Harrison Newey on their victory. And finally, the GT Daytona victory goes the way of Paul Miller Racing, crossing the line now with Andrea Caldarelli at the wheel of the 48 car, backed up with Madison Snow, Brian Sellers and Corey Lewis. Let's go straight down to the pit lane to get reaction about the number 10's victory. Here's Ryan Briscoe.
And the screaming down on pit lane, I can hear it through my headset as Ryan Briscoe just climbed back up onto the wall to celebrate with the team. You were so nervous as we got into these final couple of hours, then you just got to watch it all unfold. What was the key to victory?
Just keeping it on the track. I mean, Kamui did a fantastic job the last 2.5 hours. You know, we knew the car was fast, so just relieving there were no yellows at the end, and we were just able to maintain the lead, and just so proud of all these guys. I mean, Wayne just puts together this program, and they're always a car that can win the Daytona 24 Hours. I think it's his 3 out of 4 years now, so amazing to be a part of it. I'm just so happy for everyone on board, and woo, we did it.
You can hear that smile on his face. The celebration continues, Shay.
John, I've been avoiding you like the plague because the black BMW has brought you so much luck in the past. 3 times you finished 4th here. You are now a Rolex owner and a Daytona winner. What does this feel like?
I mean, I've never even finished on the podium here. Daytona has treated me so badly in the past, and I'm not sure. I think this might be my 10th year here, and the very first year I finished 4th. I guess you said we had another couple times finishing 4th, and you know, that's so bittersweet. You know, when you finish the race and have all that effort and no celebration really from it. So yeah, I think today we were looking pretty sure that it was going to be a podium, but if it had been 2nd or 3rd, it would have been so bittersweet. Yeah, it was hard to believe. It was hard to watch the end. I've never been more anxious in my life, and I looked at Chaz, and he was just cool as a cucumber, you know, rocking his Casio calculator watch, and I'm a little concerned about him because I don't know what he's going to do. You know, now he's got this nice watch, but I don't know if he knows how to tell time on an actual watch. He's got his digital calculator, so I think we might have to teach him a little bit, but yeah, I'm so relieved. The guys at BMW, despite all the hardships we've had the past few years, you know, never lost faith in me, never lost faith in Jesse, and it feels really nice to get one for them today.
Congrats, John. Now to Renger and Jamie.
And Renger van der Zanden now congratulating Wayne Taylor. He was FaceTiming the entire moment of the checkered flag so his family back at home could see. Renger, you have this huge sigh of relief. You can see it on your body language 2 years in a row. What was different this time around?
I mean, you know, we fought so hard, and I think at the end of the day we had such a strong car. We just executed so well, and it's just unbelievable to be in such a fast car and just win this race again. I mean, with Wayne, you always have a chance to win, and that's just a fantastic feeling. We won it again 2 times in a row. Can you believe it? So super happy, super relieved. My teammates were superstars. My team was a superstar team. We just won it. It's unbelievable. I'm very happy.
You were part of that superstar team. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Shea Adam working very hard to head down towards the LMP2 pit stall, but Jamie Howe's not got very far to go at all to Paul Miller Racing, so can get some reaction from the GT Daytona category.
And pit lane is becoming a bit of a mob scene here. I'm going to grab Madison Snow. You came back for the season. You're in for the whole year. You're laughing. You just won the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
I mean, it's amazing, and I mean, I'm glad it's with Paul Miller Racing, and it was nerve-wracking the entire last 3 hours of the race.
When you were up there and you were watching, the 3 of you that weren't in the car, you used the word animal when you were describing Andrea Caldarelli. What was the key to winning this one?
I mean, it was being there at the end, but we knew it was going to be a tough fight, but you never think the tough fight's going to last the last 3 hours of the race.
And for Brian Sellers, coming over to congratulate. You've been on the podium a handful of times. You've waited for this one. You've waited a long time for this one. Now that you're here, you're on your way to the podium at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. How does it compare to what you imagined?
I don't know. There's not a lot of words, you know, for how you feel right now. You got to say thank you to everyone on the team. You know, everyone does their part to win this race. But I have to say it certainly would be remiss not to note the job that Andrea Calderale did today. I mean, he was our go-to guy and pulled us through a lot of struggles, and we're just super happy to be doing this together. This is the driver lineup we've wanted for a long time, and we're happy to be here.
Corey Lewis, you've been a part of this team in the endurance package. You stepped in last season. You finished out the year with them. To be able to go home with the Rolex this year, what kind of icing on the cake is that?
It's everything you could ever imagine. I'm kind of at a loss of words. I'm emotional. It's a dream come true. That was the longest, I think it was 3 hours since I've been in the car, and the time wouldn't go any faster. But hats off to this whole Paul Miller organization. I mean, we dug deep, we worked so hard, and the car was flawless, and the pit stops were perfect. The guys did an awesome job, and guys, we just won Rolex.
It's always special to watch a team win the Rolex 24, but when you get to watch a team of 4 drivers all win it for the first time, it makes it just a little bit better, Shay.
Ben Hanley's just caught sight of his teammates running over to him. You're a Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona winner. Here's Colin Brown, Henrik Hedman, and of course Harrison Newey. That says more than anything else could. Does it feel like that on the inside right now?
Yeah, it certainly does. God, that was a long 24 hours. That was a long last hour. Crikey.
Was it as long behind the wheel as was waiting on the pit lane to see if you guys were going to win?
Oh, it was just, them last 18 laps took forever, you know. They were going by so slowly. I was being cautious with the traffic and everything, just taking it easy and just bringing it home. And, you know, what a result for the team, you know. They've fantastic job, you know. No issues with the car, flawless running, you know, perfect race.
2 years in a row, the team gets to win the LMP2 class, but this time it's a little different when it's actually you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty special.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Walking towards victory lane with Paul Miller. Paul, racing, it's a sport of passion for you. You have your full-time job, you have all of your other businesses. When you get moments like this, what kind of reward is that?
You know, when I had one of your associates come over to me before the race ended, with about a half an hour to go, I said, don't even bother sending a camera over here before the race is over, because I've driven at Le Mans and had the car break on me on the very last lap. And anything can happen. It's goofy what can happen in this game we all love. And it's just so rewarding to have Lamborghini behind us and Total behind us. And our guys have just done a great job. Brian's obviously done a wonderful job for us. And it's so great to have Madison and Melanie and Martin back. So I'm just over the moon. I'm just about to break in half, to be honest.
Don't break in half before you get up to the podium. Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
Colin Brown, you're not used to watching the end of races. Normally you're the ace behind the wheel, so how difficult is it to be sitting on the pit box watching your LMP2 car come across the line first?
Yeah, I mean, super pumped. I mean, Ben did a great job. So did Harrison, so did Hendrick. But I was telling these guys, it's more nerve-wracking for sure sitting in the pits watching than sitting in the race car. I've not done that a whole lot, but, you know, certainly a really cool deal. I mean, Ben drove the wheels off the thing, and the guys had great pit stops and good strategy the whole day. And, you know, when you execute like that, make no mistakes, so you usually get rewarded with the victory. So just proud to be a part of it. These guys did a really great job. You know, grateful for the opportunity to come in and, you know, do this with all those guys. Pretty special for sure.
And now that you've got a third Rolex, might it go to Melissa?
I think I'm going to have to. I don't have any more wrists left.
She's pumping her fist on the other side of the fence. I'll let you go celebrate with your missus.
I'll do it. Thanks.
Shay, Adam, with Colin Brown and an awful lot of other winners. I think we just about got through everybody there. GTLM. Yes.
Yeah, we heard from John Edwards.
We did indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
it was great. Super job by that whole team there.
Yeah, thanks to Shay. Thank you to Jamie Howe as well. And remember, post-race tech follows very, very shortly. Michelin post-race tech. Love to hear any questions that you might have to add to the conversation at IMSA Radio. Make sure you include the hashtag at Michelin PRT. And that just about does it then for the first race of the season for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. I think it's fair to say, Jeremy, it developed into a bit of a rhythm overnight. Not too much incident, but that was great because it provided this extended run under green flag conditions. A little weird that we had that spell of 3 yellows reasonably close to one another at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and that sort of served to spice things up. We, the fans here enjoyed 3 restarts, and it really closed the field up in the GTLM category. But always something I thought to take the interest, not least the breakneck speed at the head of the order from the DPIs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think the race pretty much unfolded as one would have expected, but for me it was even more thrilling than expected. There were 3 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race, and after such a long period of green flag running, that's pretty remarkable, I think. The Acura team, certainly they'll be disappointed to finish 5 laps off the ultimate pace with the best of their cars in 4th position. The other car, of course, number 7 car, finished in 8th place after being taken out in an incident. Absolutely nothing to do, not their fault at all. So a disappointing day certainly for Acura Team Penske. But the Cadillacs, boy, they look strong. The Mazdas were fast. And I think in the DPI side of things, it was a great race. I think it bodes really, really well for the season ahead. Yeah, we'd certainly like to see more DPI cars for sure. But and then in LMP2, there ended up being just 1 lap. Actually, I guess 2 laps at the end because the number 52 car was lapped before the finish by the race leader. But it was a little more than a lap between the PR1 and Dragon Speed cars, and for the 2nd year in a row, Dragon Speed USA comes away with the victory. Very, very hard earned and well deserved, much more so than 1 year ago.
Just a word on Wayne Taylor, because again, just utter disbelief, I think, despite having followed the race with every turn of the wheel, regardless of who was at the controls of the Konica Minolta Cadillac. But he's renowned for staying up all night and not necessarily on top of the strategy, because he says, I employ these guys alongside me to deal with that. But he lives every moment, and he's now won 3 out of the last 4 of these things.
Yes,
I mean, that's a mightily impressive record, isn't it?
It certainly is. And I think he really earned this one. I mean, there were other Cadillacs in the field, and the number 10 team had all the other Cadillacs covered. Some of the other ones were as fast or maybe even a little bit quicker at some stage in the game, but the number 10 team, there were a couple of little procedural mistakes there. There was a drive-through penalty, a couple of drive-through penalties, weren't there, for various pit lane infractions, which could have been really, really costly, but the car was fast enough and the drivers were good enough. They didn't hit anything out on the track, and that was the most important thing from their perspective.
Go, not the same number cars as in the race numbers, but nevertheless at least 2 other machines able to keep up with the ultimate winner. Let's not talk too much then about details within post-race tech, because we have the Michelin PRT right now here on RS2 IMSA Radio. So a record-breaking Rolex 24 for season 2020, and not only a new distance record that blows the old one of 808 laps out of the water, but also the longest green flag run ever since cautions were brought into the equation. Also delighted to know that the ladies down in pit lane, Shea Adam and Jamie Howe, working still very hard to get drivers on air, and I know Earl Bamber's waiting patiently to speak now to Shea Adam.
Yeah, I've got Bam Thor and Jam Jam, all three of them waiting here. So I'll start off with Lawrence. You were sitting on the pit box for the end of that race. How terrible is it when your car has a chance at a win?
Shit. Yeah, you know, we're race car drivers and we're here to win, and we fought for 23.5 hours for a win. I think we were never further away than 5 seconds or a bit more. So it was a really intense race, and in the end we simply lost out. And then afterwards you ask yourself, what did we do wrong? And there's not really anything which pops up. Yeah, it's shit. It's the word for it, but yeah, it's the way it is.
Apologies for the language, but it does help that you get on an airplane and fly to the other side of the world and race a 12-hour next week, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, after 24 hours like this, and in general, you like to see your family and never like stay at home. But tomorrow, obviously, all targets will be in Bathurst, and at least try to get that one. But yeah, like I said, we did a good race. Nothing we can approach ourselves. The dream of winning Daytona is still a dream.
Goes on a little bit more. And Earl, I've got to ask you about the pass you made on Nick, because we were saying that you would be smiling underneath your helmet when he ran a little bit wide in turn 1. Were you indeed smiling?
Actually, when they came out in front, I was like, no, I'm not going to come third. So, as Lawrence would say, so I put my nose, and twice I didn't expect to pass, and he locked up, went wide, and then we had good speed, but not enough speed to catch the BMW. We sort of went back and forth with Nick, but we sort of struggled with tyres and a bit of speed at the end of the race, and the BMW was on they did a great job, they did a perfect race, but I think for Porsche, we can be really proud to come out our first 24 with the new RSR, get a double podium is nothing to be sad about. So I think everyone's happy, but obviously to lose the race by just that smaller margin, it's leaves a bit of taste as well.
Yeah, that's what next year's for. And you guys, defending champions, you know what it's all about. Points. Second in points after this one, so don't hang your head in shame at all.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, we've got a good car. Team's operating great. They're making all the right calls. So, you know, I guess it's one better position than what we finished last year at the 24 when we won the championship. So we'll go hunting it.
One better next year. And Matthew, I've got to ask, you're going to be driving at Bathurst next week too. You've been sharing a car with these two all week. How excited are you to get out against them on track?
Super excited. I'm gonna kick their ass, but they don't know about it yet. No, but it's gonna be fun. I mean, we had a nice race. Yeah, you're gonna feel the jam. I tell you. And Matty Campbell as well, reigning champion. But yeah, I mean, we had a nice weekend. We have a good relationship, both we together. We have always great fun, and it's yeah, also nice sometimes to battle. And it's gonna be, I'm sure, a great weekend next week. And I hope we have a nice fights on track.
See you down there.
Yeah, see you there. Thank you.
Okay, we were. Hopefully, Jamie Howe's going to be able to have a quick chat with Bobby Rahal very shortly. But
that'd be great. Very impressed with Earl Bamber and Matthew Jaminet. Not so much with Lawrence Vanthoor. I thought that was pretty low class, but very classy by Earl Bamber. He acknowledged the job that BMW Team Rahal did, and you know, and rightly so. I mean, it's a great battle between the two. Yeah, the BMW was a little bit faster today, but both Jaminet and Bamber got it absolutely right. You know, we did everything we could possibly do to try and win the race. We came up a little bit short. Let's move on to the next one. Love it. That's the way you should finish off this sort of a race after a great performance by the Porsche GT team.
Yeah, great attitude, but a slightly happier guy right now, I'm sure, will be Bobby Rahal, now with Jamie Howe.
And they're quickly calling the GTLM winners over to the podium. Bobby, you sat on the wall in the early morning. You thought about this moment. You wanted it. Now that you're here, what was the biggest key that made it happen?
Well, I mean, we spent as I said before the race,
this race goes to the people that spend the least amount of time in the pits, number one. And number two, obviously have the pace, and they don't make mistakes. And the drivers did a super job. You know, the team did a super job. I really feel bad for the guys in the 25 car, because outside of that one instance, they had a great race. But it's really hard to come back from, 14, 15 laps down. So, but I'm just so pleased for our team, so pleased for BMW, everybody back in Munich, our sponsors. Heck of a way to start the year. Now we got to do it again in Sebring.
2 in a row here at Daytona. Nice job, Bobby.
He's got to fly and head straight to the podium, but yeah, another phenomenal record it's developing into. I just have a funny feeling this one's going to mean a little bit more, because it went to the full race distance and they won it on pure pace. Mightily impressive that Jesse Krohn as well put in that pretty late fastest lap of the category too, just an indication of how hard they had to push. And he would have been leaning on those new brakes that they put in at the 16-hour mark from memory. I'm not sure whether any of the other GT LM cars actually needed to do brakes, but the BMW squad did, and very much had to, as I say, use them towards the end. Right, it is time for the rest of Michelin post-race tech, where hopefully you don't mind us using a little bit of that time for driver interviews. Good to catch up with the Porsche squad. Sincere apologies, by the way, about Laurent Vantour's language, and the BMW for Bobby Rahal. Delighted to hear that he is so happy as well.
And sharing the load too. I mean, the number 25 car won last year, number 24 this time around. The common denominator was Augusto Farfus, who was aboard both of the cars, so he's got 2 Rolexes from as many years. But yeah, it was, I mean, they did absolutely execute perfectly. I can't think of a single miscue really at number 24 team had. They had to, even came back from changing the brakes at one stage under green flag conditions rather than under caution, which would be the preferred option. But no, that was an excellent performance by BMW Team RLL, and a brilliant battle all the way through. And hats off also to Corvette Racing, coming here with a brand new car. They finished, well, I don't think they'd been lapped by the 3 leaders in the class. They're going to show us a lap down because they'd been lapped one more time by the overall race leader before the end of the race, so completed 1 less lap. But that was a performance to be proud of for Corvette Racing. That stunning looking new C8R, and I think that bodes extremely well for the rest of the season.
Let's talk about LMP2, because I think in the early entry lists there were due to be 7 cars. We made a race with 5 though, certainly, and it lasted not quite all race long, because in the end the number 81 car had a distinct advantage. But it is a category that I know, Jeremy, you would love to see them run de-restricted, the LMP2 cars, and yes, you know, out for the outright win. That's not the way of things right now, but it developed into a really good race, and I mean a very emotional Ben Hanley at the end. Yeah. You know, that race, those stints went on and on for him towards the end. Shows how much he wanted to win it. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to make a mistake that day. You've got a lap lead and it's easy to lose concentration, but you know, the whole Dragon's Teeth team, again, they executed perfectly. That's how you win a Rolex watch. If we've got a moment, we've been joined by Bo Barfield, the race director. Bo, what a motor race. I mean, pretty much unfolded like we thought it would. We didn't think there'd be many caution periods. It was a tremendous motor race, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in terms of what we were hoping for, setting the tone of the meeting this week, and just on-track behavior, good racing, interaction, racing clean, racing hard, it was fantastic. It was, and you were relatively quiet up there in race control in terms of having to make any sort of difficult calls. I mean, it's funny, you look back at a year like last year where you got red flags and you end early and all this kind of stuff, and it seems grueling and tiresome, and it certainly is, but you're engaged the whole time, where you never have a moment to step back and get fatigued or tired or hope you can take a nap. Whereas this year, that seems like, you know, much easier. It is, and you're just falling out, and it's hard to stay engaged because everything is just going so easy and so smoothly, and there's no real tension or intensity to keep you awake. It's a tough one. It really was. It was brilliant. Got a question in from the Angry Pothole here, which is, I love that handle name. Do you actually think, and the question to both of you actually,
Do you think the smaller field helped the race, 38 starters, but it meant that we had that sustained run in the middle? And if so, should the highest number of cars permitted to be on the grid actually be decreased? It stands at 60 right now, Bo.
I don't think you're ever really going to see a reduction in that, because it sort of makes the most sense from a financial and practical standpoints. But there is a lot to be said for a car count increase being absolutely proportional to a number of yellow increase or yellow laps increase. So, obviously you get the car count reduction, and you get the car count reduction this year along with really the quality of the field. You look at the entries and you look at the drivers, then you really go in having a good sense that, like Jeremy already said, you're gonna have a lot less yellow. So, there's a perfect balance there in between. What's that number? Who knows?
You had 2 calls to make on the number 10 car during the race for pit lane infractions.
Yeah, it was brutal, honestly, because these guys, they're